The sun was shining outside. It fell like rays into the cafe and illuminated the entire room. Suddenly there was an exclamation, puzzled by the words that Shim Ha-young was in a relationship. The guy with glasses shushed our heroine, asking her to keep her voice down. She smiled and apologized. The girl asked to tell me more about these rumors. The brunette said that he saw Shim Ha-young seeing someone lately. She asked where he got this information and if he had proof. Shim Ha-young was known as a cool Korean actress. The star's reputation has always been impeccable, but there were rumors that she was involved in a scandal. Closing his eyes, the guy recalled that her husband was Shim Ha-young's friend, and asked if there was a better advantage than that. As if remembering marriage, our heroine began to shine. Her eyes widened in realization and her lips stretched into a bright smile. The brunette carefully asked if she loved director Lee Soo-hyuk. Kang Ji-woo was still looking through him happily. The guy continued trying to reach his girlfriend. He asked if the girl could find out information from her husband. Our heroine said she could. Kang Ji-woo thought about her husband again. Her friend muttered quietly that the girl was too excited. Although it was obvious, because she got married only 2 months ago. The brunette frowned. No matter how much he thought about their wedding, it still seemed to him that they got married too quickly. Director Lee Soo-hyuk was known as a popular person in the world of media. He dated our heroine for 10 months before he proposed to the girl. But her friend was against this marriage, because Kang Ji-woo was 7 years younger. It looked like he wanted to have a quick wedding. The guy heard the sweet babbling voice of his girlfriend. With a joyful smile and blush, the girl said that Lee Soo-hyuk just called her. Seeing the happy Kang Ji-woo, he exhaled in relaxation. It didn't matter if she felt good with him. The girl continued her meal, moving away from the topic of conversation. She tilted her head, thinking about something. The brunette raised his tone slightly to attract his friend's attention. The guy emphasized that Shim Ha-young has never been involved in a scandal in 20 years. He gesticulated enthusiastically, hinting that if the information was confirmed, this would be the actress's debut scandal. Kang Ji-woo could catch a big fish, our heroine thought. She clenched her hands into fists and dreamily imagined a huge fish on her hook. Evening fell on the large city. There were fewer people on the streets and the warm air began to gradually cool, sending goosebumps across the skin. Kang Ji-woo was lying on her gray sofa. She thoughtfully tapped her pen on a small notepad. Our heroine understood that rumors could never be 100% true. But if it was about Shim Ha-young, then everything became much more serious. The girl pressed her hand to her chin and closed her eyes. She began to remember all the details, and news about the actress's affair came to mind. Her husband, Soo-hyuk, was a friend of the Korean star, but he definitely wouldn't say anything because of a possible scandal. Kang Ji-woo frowned. What would have happened if she had asked her husband about this? The girl did not notice how Lee Soo-hyuk approached and asked what she wanted to ask. The girl turned around in fear. The pen suddenly fell out of her hands, falling to the floor with a thud. Our heroine quickly sat down on the sofa and anxiously looked up at her husband. She awkwardly apologized, saying that she had not heard the man come home. Lee Soo-hyuk bent down, picking up his pen from the floor. He mockingly asked what distracted his wife so much that she did not hear the door open. The man raised his head with a sweet smile and handed the fallen object to the girl. He asked if she had had dinner and guessed that she had not, since the girl was so immersed in work. Kang Ji-woo looked at her satisfied husband with her mouth open, having listened to half of what he said. Lee Soo-hyuk raised an eyebrow, asking why she was looking like that. Our heroine said thoughtfully that she didn't understand how it happened that such a handsome and wonderful man married her. The brunette chuckled quietly at her compliment. His eyes looked tenderly at his wife, and the corner of his lips curled into a grin. Lee Soo-hyuk knelt down. He quietly said that he still did not believe that such a beautiful, cheerful, and passionate woman was his wife. Sometimes he thought he was sleeping. Kang Ji-woo pulled her husband closer to her by his tie. In a flirtatious tone, she said that there was only one way to be sure whether it was a dream or not. She pulled her lips closer to his face. In a languid voice, the brunette mockingly said that she should have closed her eyes when kissing. Our heroine closed her eyes, nervously frozen in place. She was expecting a kiss, but at the last moment she felt warm lips touch her forehead. The girl opened her eyes wide and the man smugly straightened his tie, getting up from the sofa. She touched her forehead in bewilderment, not understanding what had happened. Lee Soo-hyuk was taking off his jacket when his wife came up behind him. He calmly asked if she had any problems, because it was clear that the girl was stubbornly thinking about something. Trying not to give himself away, Kang Ji-woo said that he has become less likely to appear with Miss Shim Hae-young. Soo-hyuk replied that they were both very busy, but they would see each other at the class reunion. His wife asked if he knew that the actress had signed 2 advertising contracts and would be starring in a play in the fall. The man replied that he was just as busy. Kang Ji-woo shared that the actress was made the face of the company. Carried away, she spilled the beans. The girl wondered how such busy people had time to go on dates. The brunette covered his face with his palm and snorted quietly. In an angelic voice, the girl said that if you think about it, it doesn't seem like being an artist is a good job. He turned to his wife and stretched her cheeks. The girl asked why he was laughing. Lee Soo-hyuk said that it would take her 100 years to learn how to deceive him. The brunette let go of her face, placing his hands on her thin shoulders. He asked what Kang Ji-woo wanted to know. She said that it was about Miss Shim Hae-young's scandal and asked if he knew anything about it. The man pressed his lips together, slowly inhaling and exhaling. The husband thought that she wanted to know about Shim Hae-young because he was her friend. But the girl replied that she asked him not as a friend of the actress, but as her husband. The brunette turned around, leaving her without an answer. Our heroine tensed but did not lag behind. Kang Ji-woo tried to find out if there was any truth to these rumors. She grabbed her husband's hand, preventing him from leaving. The man tensely asked to let him take a shower first, but the girl did not back down. Soo-hyuk said that he only knew that Shim Hae-young did not have a lover, and this is the only answer he could give his wife. The girl let the man go. Kang Ji-woo raised her eyebrows in displeasure. This is not what our heroine wanted to hear, but she understood everything. The husband knew that she needed exclusive news and was ready to answer all her questions. Our heroine emphasized that she asked him as a wife, and not as a journalist. Kang Ji-woo froze when she heard her husband say that Shim Hae-young really liked someone. The girl turned around interestedly. But Soo-hyuk added that the star's relationship will not go beyond sympathy. The man advised not to start digging under it, because it would not be easy for the journalist. Our heroine was sitting at work and turning over her husband's words in her head. But Kang Ji-woo didn't understand why the man decided that their relationship would not change. The girl didn't know why she was so worried. Her heart beat a drumbeat behind her ribs and her body began to heat up. After a couple of minutes, she calmed down and concentrated. She clearly decided that from now on she had to dig even deeper, and she didn't give up so easily. At night, on the day of the meeting, the journalist stood on a deserted street. She hid behind a bush as anxiety slowly crept into her heart. The actress got out of the car, followed by a brunette who practically hung on Shim Hae-young. Kang Ji-woo didn't know how long it would take to figure things out. Our heroine entered the work office. There were tears in her eyes and she zealously wiped them away with her palms. Earlier in the day, the girl was sitting in a cafe. She reasoned that not a single lead had appeared in a month. The actress had a very ideal schedule, and there was nothing to complain about. This matter was an impenetrable dead end. She thought she would follow the star at her homecoming, but remembered that she was private. A guess came into Ji-woo's head that it could be her classmate, and the couple could meet after the holiday. She swore it was the last time. Later at night, the reporter saw Shim Hae-young leaving the building with a man supported by her shoulder. The girl didn't know who this guy was and why he was getting into the actress's car. She quickly ran out into the street. Kang Ji-woo ran to the car, clearly understanding that they could not be missed. The journalist followed the white car. Adrenaline danced in her blood, and the girl hoped that this time she would definitely catch something. The actress's car stopped near a residential complex. Our heroine stopped nearby and went out, hiding behind the bushes. Kang Ji-woo was glad that she didn't give up early. She took out her camera and realized that she had finally found something. Seeing the driver get out of the car, the girl raised the camera to her face and prepared to take a photo. The figure of the actress and Lee Soo-hyuk appeared on the camera screen. The man was practically unconscious, supported only by the actress's shoulder. Our heroine's heart sank. She couldn't believe it was her husband and couldn't understand what he was doing here. After some time, the manager left the house, leaving them alone. Kang Ji-woo realized that this was the house where Soo-hyuk lived before their wedding. The girl entered the office. Tears flowed limply down her cheeks and blurred her vision. She placed her palms on the table, bowing her head. The journalist sat awkwardly in a chair, hugging herself with her arms. She didn't understand what was happening to her. Having calmed down, the girl began to type the article. She made a big headline by writing that Korea's best actress attended a meeting with her classmates on Saturday evening on the 8th. Kang Ji-woo captioned that the person next to her was someone nicknamed Midas in the media industry. She wanted to add that he was director Lee Soo-hyuk, but froze mid-sentence. The girl began to rummage through her head and remembered a recent meeting with a woman, and words from her husband that Ha-young had a lover. She sobbed and hit the table with her fists. The journalist did not understand why her husband turned out to be this very beloved. Due to the awkward movement, the chair tilted. Ji-woo fell to the floor and was shaking from uncontrollable crying. Tears fell onto her palm and she tried to hold them back with her hand. Our heroine did not understand how Soo-hyuk could do this. The man woke up from the sun coming through the window. He frowned in irritation and covered his face with his hand. Rising up on the bed, Soo-hyuk groaned exhaustedly due to his headache. He didn't remember how much he drank yesterday. Staggering, the brunette left the room and at the same time held his pounding head with his palm. After taking a shower, Lee Soo-hyuk picked up the phone only to find that it was turned off. He muttered that he didn't think he'd get so drunk. The man looked around the room. He complained about the mess of things scattered on the floor. The brunette had never drank so much, and could not believe that he had come here and not home. Soo-hyuk got into the car. He began to worry about what his wife would think. The man realized that she was most likely angry. The brunette hesitantly walked home, only to find that Kang Ji-woo was not there. Turning on the phone, the man saw a message from his wife. She wrote that she had gone on a business trip and was very busy. Lee Soo-hyuk looked at the shelf and noticed that the girl had taken a large suitcase with her. He tried to call her, but his wife's phone was turned off. The brunette called his classmate. He asked his friend what happened at the meeting yesterday. The red-haired man replied that he was drunk and Shim Ha-young drove him home. Soo-hyuk sat down on the sofa wondering what happened. He hung up the call and sighed loudly. The next day, the man got out of the car, not knowing why he still couldn't recover from Saturday. The brunette stood in the elevator and took the phone in his hand, thinking longingly about his wife. He didn't understand why Kang Ji-woo was so busy that she couldn't call him. Lee Soo-hyuk guessed that she was angry with him, so they should have talked. The man called her at work, but the secretary informed her that the girl was not there. He walked towards his office and asked when Kang Ji-woo would return from his business trip. The voice on the phone asked him in surprise, and a nervous secretary ran up to his side. The man entered the office, ignoring the babbling girl. The manager said that Kang Ji-woo was not on a business trip and didn't even show up for work. Soo-hyuk tensed when the voice on the phone muttered that the girl could not be contacted. The man's gaze fell on the folder on the table. The manager quickly muttered something about the article and hung up, saying that he had no time. The brunette frowned and looked at the unfamiliar papers. The secretary came up behind me, excitedly saying that the article was published at 8 this morning. The man unfolded the newspaper. The headline stated that star Shim Ha-young was dating a married man, with director of James Media Group, Lee Soo-hyuk. The assistant awkwardly said that the public relations team had filed a complaint. She promised that they would do everything possible to work it out. The work phone rang and Soo-hyuk picked it up. A law firm wanted to contact him. The man introduced himself as Kim's lawyer. The brunette asked in alarm what happened. A quiet voice on the phone said that Kang Ji-woo filed for divorce. Our heroine stood in the middle of the room. She trembled nervously due to fear and covered her mouth with her hand. Her phone was ringing with calls. The girl turned to her cell phone, biting the corner of her thumb. Kang Ji-woo complained that she felt stuffy and punched her chest a couple of times. The calls did not stop. So having calmed down, our heroine looked at the screen and saw the name of her friend. The girl quickly ran to the table, grabbing the phone. She answered the phone, asking Chung Hyun what happened. Shouting over the crowd, the man said that he was standing next to their editorial office. And also, Shim Ha-young's fans are asking for the journalist to be handed over to them. The guy continued to say that Kang Ji-woo's information was leaked online, and the actress's agency said they would file a complaint. Tears rolled into her eyes, and the girl fell to her knees on the floor, not understanding why this happened. Chung Hyun asked her not to leave the house and said that the company officially announced that this article was released without their approval. Kang Ji-woo was still trembling and said in a shaking voice that she did not download this article. The girl swore that she didn't write it. Our heroine said that her materials differed from this article and she wrote differently. Chung Hyun replied that it didn't change anything. He asked the girl to listen to him carefully while she cried into the phone. A friend told her not to leave the house, and not to trust anyone except him and Young Min, because almost everyone was against her now. Kang Ji-woo nodded into space. The man supported her, saying that he would try to prove that it was not she who published it. A few days later, the news was on TV. It said that Shim Ha-young's scandal was still being discussed all over the country. Our heroine took the remote control and turned off the TV when news about her husband appeared on the screen. She opened her laptop and saw dozens of scandalous articles. Rumors circulated throughout the country and even abroad. The girl became scared when she found out that even her parents' house was attacked by reporters. The phone vibrated on the table again, and Kang Ji-woo turned it face down. The media group's lawyer called her every day. She covered the phone with her palm and thought that if Lee Soo-hyuk had a conscience, he would not have tried to contact her. Our heroine wrapped her hands around herself and remembered her friend's words. He said that the company, the people, and even her husband were all against her. The girl picked up the phone and saw a message from Chang Hyun. He wrote that he would go to Young Min in the evening. Kang Ji-woo thought that all these days her friend was busy only with this matter, only because of her. The girl realized that she could only trust him. Evening came and our heroine anxiously looked at her watch. The doorbell suddenly rang and Kang Ji-woo jumped. The girl walked to the door and looked through the peephole. A strange voice came from behind the door, introducing itself as a quick delivery. Our heroine carefully opened the door. The man said Kang Ji-woo's name and the girl said it was her. The delivery man gave our heroine an unknown parcel and asked her to sign for it. The girl came home looking at the strange package. Suddenly the phone rang in my hand. Kang Ji-woo picked up the phone and greeted her friend. She asked what time the girl finished work because Chan Hyun was going to her for dinner. Young Min called her friend, but she did not pay attention, talking about the parcel. Tears were dripping from the girl's face. Kang Ji-woo fell silent in fear. The friend told the girl to get ready to go out because she would pick her up in an hour. Barely holding back a sob, Young Min said that there was a car accident and Chang Hyun got into it. The man was sitting at the table and talking on the phone. 10 days had passed since the article was published, and he asked if his wife had turned up. The guy on the phone said that he had already called Kang Ji-woo several times, but he still couldn't get through. Soo-hyuk's gaze fell on the divorce papers. On that day, 10 days ago, the man received these papers. The lawyer said that without his signature, an amicable divorce was not possible. But there was also a more serious problem, such as Shim Ha-young's agency. Because of the scandal, they were determined to see the case for damages through to the end. There was a knock on the door and Lee Soo-hyuk interrupted the lawyer, saying that he would talk to him about it later. The secretary came into the office and said with a nervous look that she might have found Kang Ji-woo. The man tensed and raised his head sharply. The girl said that his wife lived at the house of a friend named Young Min. The brunette sighed, lowering his head. He muttered that it wasn't like her because Kang Ji-woo was the type of person who didn't like to make others uncomfortable. Lee Soo-hyuk rose from his chair and asked that the car be prepared for him. The assistant stopped him. The girl said that 3 hours ago, one of the editorial staff was in a car accident. It was reporter Kim Chang-hyun. The director thought about it, trying to figure out who the man was. He remembered his wife's friend. The secretary added that on the way home after reporting, an accident occurred. It turned out that the journalist died on the spot. Lee Soo-hyuk frowned and pinched the bridge of his nose. The assistant said that although it could be dangerous because of the media and people, she suggested that the director go to the funeral. The man was sure that Kang Ji-woo would come to the funeral, but remembered that journalists would also be there. Lee Soo-hyuk lowered the framed photo of his wife. The brunette decided that he would go home for now. Young Min stood to the side and watched the crowd of journalists. She muttered that even though she was a reporter herself, even she was already tired of these guys. Kang Ji-woo sat in the car and put the mask on her face with shaking hands. The friend gave her her hand and said that it was time for them to go. The reporters immediately recognized the girl and began asking a bunch of questions. Kang Ji-woo closed her eyes. The clicks and flashes of cameras came from all corners. Someone even tried to grab her hand, just so that the girl would answer at least one question. They entered the room and Young Min quickly closed the door. Our heroine stepped aside and wiped the tears from her face. The girl took off her disguise and, with the support of her friend, walked further down the corridor. Kang Ji-woo froze in front of a frame with a photo of her friend. She was overwhelmed with guilt and sorrow. Chan Hyun's family sat on the floor nearby and mourned the deceased. The girl felt uneasy. Our heroine stepped aside and remembered the words of her friend. He was ready to help her at any cost. The girl fell to her knees and began to sob. An excited friend ran up to her. Kang Ji-woo whispered an apology to her dead friend and swore that she didn't do it. The brunette hugged our heroine while she cried loudly. Ji-woo blamed herself, because if she had not dragged the man into this matter, he would not have gone to Young Min. The girl stood near the sink and looked at her tear-stained face. She got angry and thought that if Lee Soo-hyuk had a conscience, he would understand how immoral his affair was. Kang Ji-woo cleaned herself up and left the restroom, loudly slamming the door. The girl stopped abruptly when she saw her husband in front of her. She froze, looking at his face. Our heroine loudly shouted at the man, asking how and why he ended up here. She grabbed the brunette by the jacket and without holding back blamed him for what had happened. Passers-by turned around in bewilderment at her hysteria. Tears began to roll down Kang Ji-woo's face again. She blamed both her husband and herself. The man stood still without saying a word and clenched his fists. Our heroine suddenly tensed and raised her head sharply, opening her eyes wide at the man's words. 10 months later in Atlanta, Kang Ji-woo was running through the park on a sunny morning. She paused to catch her breath when her phone vibrated in her pocket. The girl took out her mobile phone and looked at the screen in surprise. An elderly couple passed by and greeted Kang Ji-woo. The girl put on her headphones and greeted her with a smile, answering her friend's call. She wondered why she called so early. Young Min guessed that the girl was running again and said that she was crazy about sports. Kang Ji-woo replied that this is not insanity, but a good habit. Our heroine ran along the path and tensed when her friend said that their company had turned her down again. Because of the hype around the scandal, the editors began to think about how to hush everything up. They used Kang Ji-woo as a scapegoat to avoid problems. The girl could not bear all the attention, criticism, and death of Chon Hyun, and fled to Atlanta to live with a relative. But she couldn't run away forever, so she filed a petition for reinstatement. Young Min said that the reason they rejected her was different this time. They were unable to take Ji-woo back due to their deteriorating financial situation. After the scandal with Shim Hae-young, the editorial office became famous, but only for a while. And all the newspaper advertisers left when the scandal lost its significance to society. The girl slowed down when Young Min said that her husband's company was putting pressure on the editorial advertisers. Kang Ji-woo stopped, and her friend added that she was sure that Lee Soo-hyuk was involved in this, and he would soon completely destroy their company, in retaliation for the article. The girl reassured herself by saying that while everyone was still working, the editorial office should not disappear. Young Min was worried that the company would soon disband everyone, and they might not be able to find out the truth about who framed Kang Ji-woo. But they had no choice but to wait and hope that someone would buy the company. 2 months later, the girl stood in front of the editorial office in South Korea. She sighed loudly and squeezed the handle of her bag as she crossed the road. Kang Ji-woo introduced herself to the girl at the reception and informed her that she had an appointment with the boss at 10 o'clock. The manager gave our heroine a card and told her to go up to the 4th floor. The girl went up in the elevator and thought, she worked here for more than 3 years. But this will be her first time in the president's office. Kang Ji-woo swallowed nervously and walked out of the elevator into the hallway, walking towards the reception area. Seeing her, the secretary recognized the girl and told her to follow her. Our heroine sat down in a chair, and the assistant asked to wait a little while the director came. The secretary left, and Kang Ji-woo thought about it. She didn't know who took over the leadership of the editorial office, but everything turned out better than expected. The employees were not fired, and the girl could return to work. Our heroine was glad that she could start all over again. At that moment, the girl heard footsteps and tensed. Kang Ji-woo stood up from her chair and clenched her fists. The door slammed and the director appeared from behind it. The girl said hello, but immediately froze in place in bewilderment. Her brow furrowed and her eyes widened in disbelief. Lee Soo-hyuk stood in front of her. In a stern voice, the man said without greeting that they had not seen each other for a long time. The brunette crossed his arms and sat down in the chair. The girl froze in surprise. Lee Soo-hyuk looked at his watch and sarcastically asked his wife how much more time she needed to come to her senses. Kang Ji-woo touched her palm to her other hand. She rudely said that she had come to meet the president of the company. The girl did not understand what her husband was doing here. The man irritably asked how long she would stand and asked her to sit down. Ji-woo clenched her fist and demanded an explanation. The director said that he had taken the initiative into his own hands, and soon the editorial office would be included in a branch of the media group. The girl was surprised and asked why he did this. The husband rudely asked why he had to explain how his business was run. Our heroine frowned and sighed noisily. Kang Ji-woo said that she didn't believe the man. Lee Soo-hyuk replied that as a representative of the media industry, he could not calmly watch as the mass media went to collapse. Brunette said that next month the media group cable channel would be created. And at the same time the acquisition of the editorial office was taking place. So now the girl was again the editorial reporter. Kang Ji-woo tensely rubbed her shoulder with her palm. She said she wanted to go back to work, but that wasn't the case. So she refused. Our heroine muttered that she could not call this meeting pleasant, but if they had already met, then the girl would be frank. She seriously said that they should get a divorce, because 1 year was enough. Lee Soo-hyuk tensed and raised an eyebrow in surprise. The man sighed and asked why Kang Ji-woo was so stubborn. The brunette gave her a year of freedom, and that should have been enough. The girl asked what was the point of living without love and trust in each other. Lee Soo-hyuk radiated one calmness and told her to go home. Our heroine got really angry and screamed and asked why he was asking her to come back again. The girl remembered the day of the funeral, when her husband just as calmly told her to return home while she was sobbing. Kang Ji-woo crossed her arms over her chest. She thought that Lee Soo-hyuk would openly announce his romance, but it turned out that the proud man is also afraid of criticism and condemnation. Brunette said that last year the whole country was shocked by her article, and people were delighted to watch the wife dunk her husband, along with a respected actress, in slop. The man did not understand why his wife put everything on the line for the sake of an ordinary article. Kang Ji-woo told him to shut up. Our heroine calmed down and, shaking her head, said that she had told him before that it was not she who wrote the article. Lee Soo-hyuk chuckled and asked why the girl didn't just admit that she wanted to gain fame by taking some bad photos. Kang Ji-woo shouted that everything was wrong. The girl rubbed the bridge of her nose with her fingers and was surprised, asking what was the point of working for this company if the man was so angry with her. Our heroine did not understand why pretend that they had a normal relationship when both could not stand each other. The girl's gaze accidentally fell on the table, and she saw an article about Shim Hae-young returning to the screens after a long absence. The girl muttered that if the actress returned, everyone would start discussing this story again. She speculated that their divorce could have hurt Hae-young, who denied their affair. Our heroine guessed that her husband bought the company for the sake of Shim Hae-young, and therefore called her. Kang Ji-woo had no intention of returning for this woman. Lee Soo-hyuk sat calmly in a chair, listening to his wife's screams. She guessed that the man loved the actress from the very beginning, and she was just a replacement. The girl asked why he even married her. Kang Ji-woo shook her head in disappointment, and said that her husband didn't even have an excuse for his actions. The brunette said that no matter what he said, the girl believed only in what she wanted to hear herself, just like a year ago. Lee Soo-hyuk remembered that Kang Ji-woo wanted to continue working in the editorial office even before leaving for America, and expressed his opinion. The girl looked at her husband with anger while he recommended taking a closer look at the presented opportunity and making an informed decision. Lee Soo-hyuk stood up from his chair and straightened his jacket. The brunette said that he had a meeting soon, so they had to end there. The man turned around wanting to say something else to his wife, but the girl had already quickly ran out of the room, slamming the door. Kang Ji-woo remembered how a year ago Lee Soo-hyuk told her that his romance with Shim Hae-young was a figment of her imagination. Our heroine did not understand how a man dared to say such a thing to her. With a quick step, the girl walked to the stop, stepping loudly with her feet. Her husband asked her to return, but apparently Kang Ji-woo was not good enough for him to deign to beg her forgiveness. Our heroine reached the bus stop. She stopped and turned her head, seeing an advertisement with an actress. The girl complained that Shim Hae-young's agents were so noisy about the scandal that our heroine had to wait a year to normally go out on the streets of Korea. Unlike Lee Soo-hyuk and the actress, Kang Ji-woo realized that only for her time stopped a year ago, and she continued to live in the past. Anger washed over the girl like a wave. Our heroine angrily kicked the poster of Shim Hae-young, shouting curses. A taxi pulled up nearby and Ji-woo ran in its direction, not noticing the black car opposite. Lee Soo-hyuk sat in the back seat of the car, watching the girl's hysterics, and asked himself the question whether his wife had always had such a character. Over the year, she has changed not only externally. The brunette wondered if he had made a mistake from the start, and said that she was not the only one who had the right to be angry. The girl came to Chonhyun's columbarium. She apologized for not coming for a long time. Kang Ji-woo spoke to the photo of her deceased friend as if she were a living person and shared how her day went. Our heroine said that she should have listened to Chonhyun when he did not approve of her choice. After all, it seems that the girl just wanted to believe in love. Kang Ji-woo continued her monologue when a familiar voice called out from behind her. Behind him stood Chon Hyun's wife and son. The pretty woman said that she barely recognized Kang Ji-woo. She continued to say that she was glad to see the girl and asked when she returned to Korea. Our heroine smiled tightly. The wife of a deceased friend looked at a photograph of her husband and asked with a smile how he was doing. She muttered that Youngmin and Ji-woo were still the same. Only he wasn't here. Tears rolled from our heroine's eyes. The girl burst into tears, and the brown-haired woman scolded herself, saying that she shouldn't have said that. She walked up to Kang Ji-woo, touching her hand in a supportive manner. Our heroine blamed herself. She complained that time had stopped, although only for Chong Hyun it had stopped. His entire family was struggling with grief, and the girl acted as if she was the only one suffering. Kang Ji-woo came to the office again and asked the receptionist if she could see director Lee Soo-hyuk. She introduced herself and said that she urgently needed to meet with him. The brown-haired girl asked the girl to follow her, and when she reached the elevator, she told her to go up to the 12th floor. Our heroine was sitting on a chair, putting her bag on her lap. Her palms were shaking desperately. The girl's phone rang and she picked it up. Kang Ji-woo asked Do-yoon what happened. Having shouted over the crowd of raging people, the man said that the company was in complete chaos. The company now has one more condition for acquiring daily sports. Ji-woo furrowed her eyebrows and didn't understand what they were talking about. Do-young went to another room and said that Media Group did not have a newspaper specializing in sports, so the first condition was to change the name, and the second was for Kang Ji-woo to return. The man added that the company had not yet signed the contract and it could be terminated. The girl was surprised. They didn't even sign a package of proposals, and everything could change at any moment. Workers were running all over the office, and a friend said everyone was looking for her. The man called secretly so that no one would know. Do-young asked hopefully if she would come back. Kang Ji-woo froze tensely, not knowing what to do. The girl exited the elevator on the 12th floor, walking further towards the CEO's office. She thought it was ironic that all of this happened again because of Soo-hyuk. Kang Ji-woo sat on the sofa turning to the man. She reproached her husband, saying that he gave her a week to think about it, but changed the conditions. Lee Soo-hyuk dodged the question and said that she was the one who decided what conditions he would put forward. The girl understood that the director left her no choice. Lee Soo-hyuk frowned at her words. He asked why Ji-woo called them colleagues if they left her in difficult times, but started looking for her when an accident happened in the editorial office. The girl did not understand what right he had to accuse them of treason when he committed it himself. She asked what would happen to the people from the editorial office if she refused. The brunette sighed noisily and said that he was not interested in other companies because he had enough worries with his own. Kang Ji-woo thought about how the last time Soo-hyuk said that he couldn't see the press failing. The man stood up, signaling that it was time for him to go. The girl realized with irritation what her husband really was like. He thought only about himself without caring about others. Turning around, Lee Soo-hyuk said that the editorial office would disappear if he didn't help. Our heroine clenched her fists forcefully and whispered the name of the dead friend for whom she fought. The girl called the man and asked what he would get if the girl became a reporter again. Lee Soo-hyuk turned around and quietly said that he would get his wife and reporter Kang Ji-woo back. The girl remembered Shim Hae-young and convinced herself that her husband was doing this for the sake of the actress. The director placed his palm on the document folder and asked Ji-woo if there was anything she wanted other than work. Our heroine answered in the affirmative, slightly nodding her head. She replayed these conditions in her head very often and already knew what to say. Lee Soo-hyuk looked at his wife with interest. She said that even if the newspaper changed its name, people would remain in their places, and also, the man should not have interfered with her work. The brunette nervously tapped the edge of the folder and froze when he heard his wife put forward the condition that he divorce her. Lee Soo-hyuk turned his head away so that the girl could not see his face. He asked her to go home again, but Kang Ji-woo looked angry. The man again gave her a year to think about it. He said that he would do whatever she wanted, but only in a year. The girl realized that this was a trap, and now she would have to do what her husband said. The director added that he wanted a Kang Ji-woo who would act like his beautiful wife in front of people, and a girl who would work passionately in her newsroom. If these two conditions satisfied her, then the man was ready to listen to everything his wife had to say. Lee Soo-hyuk asked if it was difficult to make such a sacrifice to get what she wanted, even if she didn't like the offer. The husband grinned and said that he didn't care if she ran away, and the decision was hers. Kang Ji-woo didn't understand why he was trying to provoke her. The girl asked herself if her husband had always been like this, but realized that from the very beginning, she did not know what kind of person Lee Soo-hyuk was. She calmly exhaled and stood up from the sofa, looking at the man. Our heroine said she agreed with this proposal, but there was something they needed to clarify. The door opening interrupted her and a man walked into the room, causing Kang Ji-woo to open his eyes in shock. The man entered the room and the secretary informed him that Lee Soo-hyuk had a visitor. The director's classmate recognized the girl and said her name in surprise, raising his eyebrows. He closed the door, and with a smile began to ask our heroine when she returned to Korea, and how her affairs were. Kang Ji-woo tensely replied that thanks to them, she was doing great. The girl straightened her bag on her shoulder and said in a serious voice that she would not disturb them, so she left. The red-haired man turned around in confusion. Kang Ji-woo walked down the hallway thinking about what just happened. Their last conversation came to the girl's mind. She told her husband that there was something they needed to clear up. The man listened carefully to her words, and our heroine told him not to expect anything other than pretense from her role as a wife. The girl continued by saying that Kang Ji-woo, who married him a year ago, no longer existed, and she would only be Lee Soo-hyuk's wife in public. Clenching her fists, our heroine tensely said that she no longer loved the man, because everything burned to the ground a year ago. Lee Soo-hyuk asked who the Kang Ji-woo he married was and who she really was. The brunette didn't know if anything was real, or if the girl really loved him. He asked if she sincerely cried with happiness when her husband dried her hair, or if the truth was that for the sake of success, she betrayed her own husband. Lee Soo-hyuk touched the girl's hair with his palm, and she sharply pulled his hand away, telling him not to dare touch her. An awkward silence filled the room, and to distract himself, the man took a folder with documents. He said the company's official merger would take place in 2 weeks, next month. Brunette said he will move to the 4th floor once the renovations are completed. Kang Ji-woo was surprised that the reconstruction had already begun. She had to go to work right away from the first day. The girl emerged from her thoughts and left the building, frowning at what a terrible person her husband was. The man stood in front of Lee Soo-hyuk and said that he didn't expect the girl to be here. He asked again when she returned to Korea and if they were together. A classmate suggested that judging by the prevailing atmosphere, it did not seem that they had made peace. Lee Soo-hyuk was still silent and looked away. The brunette remembered touching his wife's hair and realized that he shouldn't have done that. The red-haired man raised his voice and asked if he was even listening to him. The man took the documents and warned lawyer Jae-hyun that he was here for work and not to find out his personal life. The lawyer continued to stand his ground, but Lee Soo-hyuk ignored him. The director turned the page and asked if he had any proposals for starting a company. Jae-hyun interrupted his friend and said that they should talk normally. Lee Soo-hyuk tensed and asked how he should talk to a woman who constantly runs away. He said that it was impossible to have a healthy conversation with his wife, who, for the sake of sensation, did not care about their relationship. Jae-hyuk asked what the girl thought about this. Lee Soo-hyuk replied that Kang Ji-woo most likely thought that she would become a famous reporter after the article was published. The girl had too much ambition, and so their marriage came to an end. 3 days later, at Young Min's house, the girl was packing her suitcase to finally move into her own home. The friend asked if Kang Ji-woo was ready and confusedly added if she had forgotten anything. The girl smiled tightly and asked her not to worry, because she would be a 20-minute drive from Young Min's house. The friend was very worried and hugged Kang Ji-woo. She said she was worried about her going to Alaska. They were sitting in the car and Young Min broke the silence by saying that she had one question. The girl said that Lee Soo-hyuk needed her as a wife because of Shim Hae-young. Kang Ji-woo did not understand what her friend was leading to. Young Min didn't understand why the man needed her as a reporter. Our heroine froze in surprise. A friend asked if she wouldn't be in a difficult position if she returned to the editorial office. Kang Ji-woo replied that maybe Soo-hyuk needed a wife there too, to flash in front of people. Young Min lightly tapped her friend's head with her palm and said that in a year she had lost all the instincts of a reporter. She explained that he needed Kang Ji-woo, who worked well in the newsroom. But if a man wanted to show off his wife, wouldn't it be enough to just take her to the event? Our heroine wondered if she had really missed something important. Young Min added that Soo-hyuk must be up to something, and the girl should be careful. The car stopped at a traffic light, and the girls did not notice how the window of the dark car rolled down and a camera stuck out and took a photo. The camera took many pictures of the friends getting out of the car while talking. Kang Ji-woo walked towards the house with a suitcase in her hands, and the person inside the car quickly closed the window. The man said on the phone that he had checked everything. He confirmed that apparently the girl had really moved, because she brought a large suitcase with her. The stranger added that the reporters did not see this, and later he would report everything he could find out. Kang Ji-woo brought her suitcase into the apartment, stopping in the middle of the room. The man asked if all our heroine's things were here and said that she had arrived earlier than he thought. Kang Ji-woo frowned angrily and clenched the handle of her suitcase in her palm. Lee Soo-hyuk welcomed her home. The suitcase still stood in the middle of the room, and they sat on the sofa in tense silence. The man asked her to relax and reminded her that this was still her home too. Kang Ji-woo said that despite this, she still doesn't trust him. Lee Soo-hyuk muttered that the girl reacted to everything he said very harshly and rudely, and there was no point in talking to her. The brunette got up from the sofa and went into another room. Kang Ji-woo tensed, turning her head in his direction. Lee Soo-hyuk took the folder with documents and returned to the living room, closing the door behind him. The man handed the journalist the papers, and she frowned in confusion. The papers were divorce documents that were drawn up a year ago. He told Kang Ji-woo to consider this a contract as they agreed. There were both signatures on the papers, and the man said that in a year our heroine would be able to file for divorce. The girl squeezed the sheet in her hand and raised her head. She looked at her husband and frowned. Kang Ji-woo said that she could serve them tomorrow, but at the same time he still trusted them to her. Lee Soo-hyuk replied that he was giving them away because she was smart, not because he trusted her. The journalist tensed and pursed her lips, nervously examining her husband's face. She didn't understand what he meant. The brunette folded his hands in his lap and closed his eyes. The man said that he clearly remembered the day when he saw her for the last time before leaving. Lee Soo-hyuk looked up tiredly. He remembered what the girl said back then, and Kang Ji-woo tensed. On the day of the funeral, when our heroine was sobbing, clutching his jacket, the girl said that she was terrified that she was breathing the same air as him. Lee Soo-hyuk recalled that at the same time, Ji-woo makes a deal with him for the sake of what she wanted so much. Therefore, the man was sure that his wife would not do anything stupid. She said that if Lee Soo-hyuk wanted to take over a company that was failing, then there was something he wanted as desperately as she did. The girl proudly raised her chin and surprised the man by saying that in order to achieve what he wanted, he needed her. Kang Ji-woo began to discuss the boundaries of what was permitted, but the brunette interrupted her. Lee Soo-hyuk asked if she herself had changed so much, or if he had always hidden it from him. The girl frowned and sighed noisily. She turned to the man and asked if it was important, to which the husband replied that it was not. The brunette got up from the sofa and said that she should understand that everything needs to be done correctly, so there shouldn't be any problems. As he left the room, the man added that he couldn't wait to get what he wanted, and it might not take them a year to get a divorce. The girl was sitting on the floor in the room and throwing out her clothes. She repeated her husband's questions in her head and blamed him for not realizing her guilt. Kang Ji-woo tried to calm down and stood up. She looked around the room and thought about why she had chosen it. The room was filled with the girl's things and was the farthest from his. Our heroine touched the bear and wondered why Lee Soo-hyuk left him in the first place. The girl took in her hand a figurine of the newlyweds, made in the form of them. It was a gift from my husband. She remembered a conversation with Chon Hyun, who asked if it was true that she liked Lee Soo-hyuk so much. The girl remembers jokingly saying that her husband got sick. The cell phone on the floor rang and Kang Ji-woo came out of her thoughts, picking up the phone. Young Kang's number was on the screen. The girl rolled her eyes and wondered how he could have known that she had returned to Korea. She picked up the phone and greeted the guy. He immediately started asking if it was true that she had returned to Korea. Kang Ji-woo started making up excuses and said that she just arrived yesterday and was just about to call him. The offended voice on the phone said that a week had already passed, and Kang Ji-woo clenched her fists. She swore that she would kill Young Min because she was sure that she only told her. Exhaling, the girl touched her forehead and tried to end the conversation, but she was stopped by unexpected news. Young Kang shared that he heard that she returned to the editorial office. Kang Ji-woo froze in shock and asked what this meant. The girl angrily approached Lee Soo-hyuk's room and was about to scold the man. From a conversation with her brother, Kang Ji-woo learned that Lee Soo-hyuk told him that she came back from Korea. Our heroine frowned thoughtfully. She knocked on the door but froze after a couple of knocks. The girl didn't understand why she was so worried, because she only came to scold the man. The journalist started knocking on the door again and asked her husband to open it for her, but did not hear anything in response. Kang Ji-woo warned that she was coming in and began to open the door, but it opened on its own and the girl stumbled awkwardly. Lee Soo-hyuk looked out of the room in bewilderment and was surprised when the figure of his wife flew into him. The girl lost her balance, and to prevent her from falling, the brunette grabbed her husband by the waist, pressing her to him. Kang Ji-woo froze in place, not knowing what to do in such a situation. Her heart was pounding wildly and there was a blush on her cheeks. The brunette said with a grin that the girl told him from the very beginning that they did not need ambiguity in the relationship, but now she was clinging to him. The man did not hear the barb in response and was surprised, asking why she did not try to argue with him. Kang Ji-woo froze awkwardly and didn't know what to do. The phone vibrated in her hands and the girl remembered why she came to this room. She quickly freed herself from his embrace and looked at the notification that had arrived. Kang Ji-woo received a message from Young Kang, who asked them to meet at a cafe. Our heroine said that thanks to Soo-hyuk, she came to her senses, and with a smart face said that even between married couples, sexual harassment was possible. The couple began to argue about who was to blame and who opened the door first, but the girl still focused on the purpose of her visit. She gave an excuse for her stupor and interrupted the man, asking why he called Young Kang. Lee Soo-hyuk folded his hands and said that everyone would find out soon anyway, and she should have told the family about it in advance. The girl frowned and asked what the hell he was doing. Kang Ji-woo didn't understand why the man called him, considering that it was her family and not his. Lee Soo-hyuk corrected his wife and said that officially they were his family too, but the girl was surprised by such impudence. He said that more people were watching them than the journalist thought. Kang Ji-woo got angry and said that they were not watching the couple, but him and the actress. The brunette said that her family would also suffer, and it would be better if the girl met with her brother and they thought about a plan of action. Kang Ji-woo was sitting in a cafe with her brother and asked for forgiveness for not telling about her arrival right away. She asked if her father knew about this, but Young Kang said that he didn't tell him anything. The girl added that she would do it herself. The guy asked what happened and if it was true that she and Lee Soo-hyuk were back together. Young Kang bombarded her with questions about marriage and work, but Kang Ji-woo remained silent, not knowing what to answer. She nervously twirled the straw in her glass and said that she could not hide forever, and again worked from the editorial office, which was headed by Soo-hyuk. Kang Ji-woo added that their marriage is just a deal and they will be together for a while, so Young Kang has nothing to worry about. The guy shook his head and said that he knew. He asked his sister not to get into trouble. The man was talking on the phone and claimed that he had already made a decision and was not going to give up the editorship. The brunette was ready to suffer losses. Lee Soo-hyuk told the other party not to worry, because his father's company would definitely not be affected. The man asked why he moved in with Kang Ji-woo again, which made the brunette frown with irritation. The man added that almost no one ever interfered in the brunette's business. But if it was about two women, then that's a completely different story. The interlocutor said that he was forgiven because of the previous fuss, but this will not happen a second time. Lee Soo-hyuk hung up the phone and hit the table with force. Kang Ji-woo stood in the middle of the office, surrounded by her colleagues who happily greeted her. She went to her desk, and the guy next to her boasted that he had been appointed to the position of senior a year ago. The girl said in a serious tone that they had moved to the sports center and everything could change. Do-yoon replied that she had not changed at all and still loved to spoil the mood. Kang Ji-woo feigned praise to the man, and he continued to boast about how he had been working for 3 years. The girl asked if anything had changed, but the colleague replied that only the course of work had changed. They both turned around at an incomprehensible noise and saw the journalists watching something on TV. Shim Ha-young held a press conference. It was a presentation of the drama film, Why Should It Be You? The actress returned to the cinema with this drama. The girl carefully watched the TV screen and clenched her hands into fists. The reporter asked if he could ask Shi Ha-young a personal question. The woman said she wouldn't be able to move forward if last year's scandal stuck with her forever. The reporter asked the actress if she wanted to say anything about this, and Kang Ji-woo tensed. The girl thought about what Shim Ha-young wanted to say, and whether she should have been so worried. The voiceover added that viewers are still interested in learning some details from that incident, even though they were declared false. The actress said she had time to reflect on what caused such a commotion. The woman again confirmed that none of this was true, and she still regretted that these rumors had caused trouble for many. Shim Ha-young sincerely thanked everyone for their patience and trust, while Kang Ji-woo looked at the screen angrily. The actress stood up from the table and bowed, saying that she would do everything possible to repay her fans for their love. Doyeon called the stunned girl to follow him, but she still looked at the TV with a blank look. A familiar voice came nearby, calling out to the girl, and Kang Ji-woo turned her head in confusion. Our heroine was sitting on the sofa, and the man asked how she lived in America, because the girl had noticeably gotten prettier. Kang Ji-woo smiled at the editor-in-chief's compliment and said that he must be doing well too. The man replied that thanks to Ji-woo, he could calmly look his wife in the face. The editor-in-chief continued to praise the girl, and the journalist skillfully played along. Kang Ji-woo thought that opportunism still existed, and remembered that it was the editor who came up with the idea for the company's official position that she was accused of. With a smile, the man said that he understood that due to the events of the past year, she might not like him. The editor said they were in the spotlight last year, so he had to take action to restore their reputation. He added that they had to think about a lot back then, and Kang Ji-woo sternly said that she didn't hold a grudge. The man said that the girl published the article without authorization, and as a reporter he understood her. Kang Ji-woo clenched her teeth, restraining herself from being sarcastic. She said that she understood everything, as did director Lee Soo-hyuk. The editor-in-chief cautiously asked what was known about his position. The girl finally understood what was going on, and assured the man that the director had no intention of firing anyone. The editor widened his eyes and smiled widely, looking at the journalist with joy. Emboldened, the man said that he really liked Kang Ji-woo's character, because she didn't hold grudges like ordinary women and was calm like men. Our heroine didn't understand how someone like him was still in charge. Ji-woo got up from the sofa and said that she was leaving, because she had a lot to do. She was about to walk out the door, but turned around when the editor-in-chief called out to her. The man said that in everything you need to know when to stop. He added that the desire to move forward was commendable, because this is what she needs as a journalist. But the girl must know when to stop. Kang Ji-woo didn't understand what he was trying to say. The editor said that she should not repeat her mistakes. If she was a good journalist, she should check her sources and remain truthful and unbiased, even if it was a sensational story. The girl clenched her hands into fists, and the man continued to give instructions. He said that journalists also have rules, and attracting attention to yourself with your husband's infidelity was terrible. The editor walked over to his desk and told her not to make that mistake again. The man turned to face Kang Ji-woo and said that otherwise, she would no longer be able to call herself a real reporter. The girl was sitting in a pub and loudly complaining about the editor-in-chief to her friends. Our heroine was indignant that at first the man spoke nicely to her, afraid of losing his job, and then hinted that the girl was a bad journalist. Young Min replied that it was so. Do-yoon and Kang Ji-woo were surprised, and the friend added that it would be justified if the girl actually wrote that article. Our heroine said that the editor hinted that if this happens again, then only the yellow press will shine on her. Young Min said she was just dumb. Ignoring her friend's anger, the girl asked what she was going to do now and what Kang Ji-woo's plan was. The journalist did not understand what she was talking about, and Young Min said that she had finally returned to the editorial office, which she had been dreaming about all year, and now the girl wanted to know her plans. Our heroine clearly said that she was going to find the person who published the article on her behalf and find out what his goal was. After this, the girl would have cleared her reputation. Young Min asked why it was necessary to start a scandal again, and the girl asked what she would do in her place. The guy added that Shim Ha-young's affair was declared a misunderstanding, and in his opinion there was no need to make the situation worse. Kang Ji-woo looked at her friend in confusion. Doyeon said that Lee Soo-hyuk also resigned himself and accepted everything, even if the girl did not write anything. Our heroine frowned and realized that they perceived her situation from the outside as just a misunderstanding. Young Min stood up from the table, smilingly telling her friend to finish her beer and go home. The girl asked Do-yoon to take Kang Ji-woo home since he was the only one who didn't drink. The guy immediately agreed. The journalist looked out the window from the taxi, thinking about the words of her friend that he said about this scandal. When they arrived at her house, the guy carefully helped Kang Ji-woo out of the car and onto the street. The girl staggered awkwardly and fell on top of Do-yoon. He anxiously asked if everything was all right with her, and said that most likely the journalist had not yet gotten used to the time difference. The friend, confused, warned that Lee Soo-hyuk might have misunderstood everything, but Kang Ji-woo said that she just almost fell. The entrance door opened and they both heard a familiar voice, which made them flinch at the same time. Lee Soo-hyuk approached his wife and the journalist with an irritated expression, asking what they were doing here. The man clenched his palms into fists, and raising his voice asked again what his wife was doing with Do-yeon. Kang Ji-woo took a step back and awkwardly moved closer to her friend. She tried to come up with an explanation, but nothing came to mind. Lee Soo-hyuk looked at the guy intensely and came closer, causing the girl to flinch. Kang Ji-woo looked at her husband and introduced him to her friend and colleague Kim Do-yoon. The girl called Lee Soo-hyuk her husband, and Do-yoon opened his eyes in surprise, turning to the journalist. The guy quickly bowed while Kang Ji-woo said that she got out of the car and felt bad. She justified herself by saying that he had understood everything wrong. The brunette frowned and pressed his lips into a thin line. The man demurely thanked Kim Do-yoon for bringing Kang Ji-woo home. Our heroine smiled and caringly said that she hoped that her friend would get home safely. The girl touched Do-yeon's shoulder, and Lee Soo-hyuk raised one eyebrow, hiding his irritation. The brunette pulled his wife towards him and said in an angry tone that it was time for them to go home. The girl tried to object, but her husband said that it was time for Do-yeon to go home. Taking the hint, the guy walked towards the taxi, and the man thanked him again while Kang Ji-woo looked at both of them in bewilderment. Do-yeon added that most likely the girl was tired due to the fact that she was not yet accustomed to the change in time zones, and she should have stayed home and rested a little. Lee Soo-hyuk took out his wallet and told the guy to contact him if anything happened. The director handed over his business card and added that it would be better for everyone, so that no dry spells would arise, because even he himself had misinterpreted everything. Looking at his wife, Lee Soo-hyuk told Kim Do-yoon not to worry, because he knew his wife's physical condition better than anyone. The man quickly entered the entrance while Kang Ji-woo tried to catch up with him and asked to talk to her. Lee Soo-hyuk stopped in front of their apartment and the girl asked what it all meant. In a raised voice, the journalist explained that her friend gave her a lift because it was already night, and the man shouldn't have talked to him like that. Soo-hyuk entered the password on the door, and calmly said that he spoke to the guy like a gentleman and tried his best. The girl followed her husband into the apartment and wondered why he acted as if she was to blame for something. Because everything happened because of Lee Soo-hyuk's misunderstanding. Kang Ji-woo loudly closed the door and said that Kim Do-yoon was like a younger brother to her and was her classmate. The girl shouted, asking who the man was to treat her friend like that, and Lee Soo-hyuk turned around in shock. She lowered her tone and asked what was the matter when her angry husband quickly approached her. The brunette said that even though their relationship was over, they were still officially husband and wife, and people believed in the marriage. He asked if Kang Ji-woo forgot about the terms of the contract. The girl said, how is it even possible to be a good wife in front of people if she is always stressed because of him? Lee Soo-hyuk asked if her wife thought it was normal for her to hug a person on the street, but the girl once again explained that she almost fell, and Kim Do-yoon caught her. The man asked to explain why Kang Ji-woo was hiding behind him when Lee Soo-hyuk came closer, and how she would explain this situation to everyone who saw her. Our heroine wondered how anyone could have misunderstood this, and hesitantly rubbed her neck with her palm. Lee Soo-hyuk sarcastically asked if it was strange that someone misunderstood the girl who was standing hand in hand with a man and smiling. Kang Ji-woo didn't understand what she did wrong. The brunette raised the topic of their scandal and asked why she understood everything correctly then, unlike him now. The journalist said that it was not the same, and the man asked what the difference was, and why the girl made such a drama just because of what she saw. Kang Ji-woo said that Lee Soo-hyuk shouldn't have cared about her life and asked why he was jealous. The man hit the door with his fist and shouted at his wife, asking how she dared to talk about jealousy. Lee Soo-hyuk tried to justify his behavior but froze in place. There was an awkward silence, interrupted only by the loud pounding of his heart. Kang Ji-woo pursed her lips and turned her head in irritation to avoid looking into his eyes. The man quickly moved away and our heroine awkwardly touched her neck with her hand. She grabbed the handle of her bag with her hand, and walking next to her asked her husband to think about whether he could have told her such a thing or not. Before entering the room, Kang Ji-woo irritably told Lee Soo-hyuk to mind his own business. The girl loudly closed the door and the brunette stepped back, asking in a whisper what was wrong with her. Kang Ji-woo loudly shouted that it was a family thing, and the man added that his wife also had good hearing. Lee Soo-hyuk stood in the middle of the corridor and mentally wondered what just happened. The brunette covered his face with his palm and thought that he had never screamed like that before. which his wife, of course, didn't know about. Lawyer Jae Hyun asked again if Lee Soo-hyuk and Kang Ji-woo were together while the director was recording something. The brunette said that he wouldn't even ask how he knew about it, and asked if his father should have adopted Jae Hyun. The man said that it was all because Lee Soo-hyuk's father was worried about him. The classmate added that he would also be worried about a son like him. The director sarcastically said that it was nice to be loved, and Jae Hyun laughed quietly. Breaking the awkward silence, the man asked why Lee Soo-hyuk forced Ji-woo to work at the company again. The director didn't answer, and Jae Hyun guessed that he was trying to find out about what happened a year ago. The man added that there was indeed a lot of suspicion in this scandal, and Lee Soo-hyuk thought for a second. The brunette clasped his hands together, and his friend suggested that someone other than Kang Ji-woo might be involved in the case. The man went deep into his thoughts and talked about the scandal, not understanding why Kang Ji-woo denied her guilt after everything. He was only able to explain his relationship with Shim Ha-young several months after the scandal, and realized that he was only able to think rationally when things began to stabilize. Even though it was Ji-woo who started it, it all happened too quickly. The editorial statement was released 4 hours later, and Shim Ha-young's fans were ready to destroy Kang Ji-woo. Looking at the documents, the man did not understand why the actress's agency took up arms only against the journalist, but not against the publishing house. Lee Soo-hyuk realized that everything was going as smoothly as a well-planned scenario, and clenched the paper angrily. The brunette began to wonder if Kang Ji-woo might have been trying to return to the company over and over again, because she had something to tell. Lee Soo-hyuk snapped out of his thoughts after Jae Hyun questioned whether he really believed it. The man said that if the director brought Kang Ji-woo back just for this, then he should have understood that the girl was unlikely to be happy. Lee Soo-hyuk said with irritation that the journalist also had her own motives. Jae Hyun added that if you look at it from the other side, Ji-woo was just a victim. The man looked at his friend with a warning, and he began to make excuses that it was not that she was mistaken. Jae Hyun said that it all started with Ji-woo, but since she even had to leave Korea, there is a possibility that she was also a victim. Lee Soo-hyuk said that the girl boarded a plane and left the country, and then asked by mail to return her job at the same company. He added with irritation that in his opinion, this was the act of a cowardly person who was trying to make amends. Jae Hyun asked why the director asked her to come home if he was going to get a divorce, but at that moment the phone rang. The secretary said that Kang Ji-woo called him, and Lee Soo-hyuk asked to take the call. The girl asked where her car was, and the brunette asked her in bewilderment. Kang Ji-woo said that she left her car here a year ago. The man covered his face with his hand and asked if his wife really lacked basic politeness. Kang Ji-woo interrupted him and politely asked where her car was. Lee Soo-hyuk replied that it was no longer there, because the owner had left his life, and there was no point in keeping the car. The man asked not to call the company if she wanted to contact him. Kang Ji-woo dryly replied that she didn't have his number and didn't need it, and then hung up. Lee Soo-hyuk tried to calm down and said that leaving the girl unattended was the height of stupidity, so he decided to return her. Jae Hyun covered his mouth, trying not to laugh. The man mockingly asked if Soo-hyuk really settled his wife in his house just to look after her. The lawyer started to walk towards the exit, but turned around and said that if he really wanted to break up with Kang Ji-woo, then he would have to think straight. Lee Soo-hyuk tensed when a friend said that they got married just 10 months after they met. Jae Hyun added that the girl quickly stole his heart. This is the first time the director has fallen in love so much, and in the end, the pain he will experience may be many times stronger than before. The man respected his choice, but was against the brunette starting all over again, because it could end badly for him. Kang Ji-woo quickly ran to work, cursing at her husband on the way for selling her car. Passers-by turned around in bewilderment when the girl shouted that even if it was a gift, the car still belonged to her. Kang Ji-woo fell silent and began to think that her husband sold the car because he was so angry with her. She walked to her office and rudely greeted everyone along the way, not hiding her irritation. At the negotiating table, they discussed that singer Kim Jae-wook would return from the army and he should be interviewed. The editor-in-chief said that it was commendable that he joined the army for the public good. They needed to find details related to the filming of the films. Kang Ji-woo asked what happened about the scandal with the members of the music group, but the colleague said that he could not find anything yet. The girl asked who would be going to the set of Shim Ha-young's drama. Nervously clutching a piece of paper, she added that the hottest news was her return, and this drama is being talked about everywhere. The chief director tapped his pen on the table and called out to the girl, He said gently that it would take time to adjust to life as a reporter again, and it was worth starting with something easy. He added that information about Shim Ha-young is everywhere and easy to cover, so it was perfect for Kang Ji-woo to make a bold comeback. The journalist frowned, and the man said that she could refuse if she didn't want anything to do with it. A colleague gave her a filming schedule with the cast of Shim Ha-young's film, and added that it seemed like the manager wanted to provoke her. The girl on the right sweetly said that she could switch with her if Kang Ji-woo wanted. Our heroine said that someday she would still have to face this, and the girl decided not to run away anymore, so she would leave this assignment. The brunette added that even though everything had calmed down, people would again remember last year's scandal and attack Kang Ji-woo. The colleague pointed tensely to the side, and the girl heard footsteps and a familiar voice. The bespectacled man greeted Kang Ji-woo, and she recognized the CEO of the other company, Yoo Myung-jang. Everyone scattered in panic, and the brunette said that he heard about her return, and that director Lee Soo-hyuk did not say anything about it. Yoo Myung-jang said with a hypocritical smile that he knew that Kang Ji-woo would be supervising Shim Ha-young. All the colleagues were whispering behind their backs, and the man added that they were returning after a long absence, and said that this should not be accompanied by negativity. With an arrogant smile, the CEO asked the girl not to make any more mistakes like last time. Kang Ji-woo froze in place. The girl heard only the beating of her own heart and the whispers of people. The employees around her whispered loudly, thinking that no one could hear them. Yoo Myung-jung told her to just always write the truth. The journalist felt panic rising inside. The director added that a year ago he barely hushed up the scandal, and it would be difficult to repeat this again. Kang Ji-woo took a deep breath, raising her trembling hand up. The girl clenched her hand into a fist, leaning it against her chest. It seemed to our heroine that everyone was cursing her. With a shaking voice, Ji-woo tried to answer the man again, but fell silent due to fear. Myung-jang told the girl to contact him if she needed help. The journalist mentally begged for someone to distract her. Kang Ji-woo closed her eyes, hearing only her heartbeat and the voice in her head, when suddenly the girl was distracted by something. Lee Soo-hyuk stood in front of the CEO, shielding the girl with himself. The man greeted President Yoo Myung-jung with a friendly smile. The brunette squeezed Kang Ji-woo's palm tighter and asked what brought the director to the editorial office. The girl let out a relaxed sigh. Yoo Myung-jang replied that he had business here and asked if Lee Soo-hyuk had anything to do. The man said that he came to the editorial office because of the merger deal. The brunette added that he came with his lawyer Ham Jae-hyun, and the red-haired man nodded to the director in greeting. Lee Soo-hyuk said that they had already completed the deal, and now the man wanted to have dinner with his wife. The brunette hugged the girl by the shoulders, to which she frowned in surprise. In a serious tone, Yoo Myung-jung announced that for those who had been separated for a year, they still had a good relationship. The man tilted his head warningly and asked with a grin if it was bad. Lee Soo-hyuk leaned over to the girl and said that it is difficult to be away from the person you love for so long. The brunette added with a bright smile that the director must have wanted to talk to Kang Ji-woo about a lot of things, since he hadn't seen her for so long. Yoo Myung-jung replied that he just hoped that the report on the actors would be good. So-hyuk exclaimed exaggeratedly that if the president himself was asking for this, then his wife really had great influence. The brunette added that the president should have invited the girl to lunch to ask her to write a good article, and not talk about it in the middle of the corridor. The corner of the man's lip twitched in irritation. The CEO smiled tightly and said that he was so happy to see Kang Ji-woo that he completely forgot about it. The people behind started discussing their couple and the scandal too loudly, which is why the girl turned around. The staff speculated that Lee Soo-hyuk bought the newspaper because of Kang Ji-woo, and that she was spreading false rumors to gain fame. The girl tensed and realized that no one took such a ridiculous play seriously, and pretending to be a loving husband and wife was pointless from the very beginning. Kang Ji-woo quietly whispered to her husband to leave this place, because she could no longer listen to this gossip. The girl began to say goodbye to the boss, but Lee Soo-hyuk interrupted her, saying that he was a very good person since so many people wanted to greet her. The brunette added that he saw the newsroom staff's eyes light up when they saw reporter Kang Ji-woo. The man said loudly that this only happened after a rumor spread that he was going to take the company under his wing, but no one had been looking for a journalist in the last year. Lee Soo-hyuk admitted that he wanted to end this merger gracefully, saying that as a media person he could not see how the media was closing down. The man added that instead, everyone would say that he did it for the sake of his wife. Brunei said he was embarrassed to hear that, and he added that that was not the reason for buying the editorial office, which made the two employees feel embarrassed. Addressing the listeners, Lee Soo-hyuk said that there is no longer any reason to hide your secrets from the world. Yoo Mung-jung commented that a man's love for his wife was truly immense, but it was still clear that he bought the company for her sake. Lee Soo-hyuk shielded his wife with himself and said that the CEO must be busy, and it's time for him to go. Grinning, the man with glasses said goodbye, saying that they would see each other later in the company. They stood aside while the brunette calmed the girl down. The man asked Kang Ji-woo not to worry about his behavior today, because he only acted like that because he was in front of a crowd of people. Lee Soo-hyuk thought that if everything was in order, then his wife should have answered by now, but she simply froze in place, hugging herself with her arms. The man said that the girl could not say anything, although she had a ready answer for every word he said. Kang Ji-woo looked past her husband in confusion, without answering when he asked where her passion for scandal had gone. Lee Soo-hyuk asked why the girl didn't answer him, and noticed that she was shaking all over. The man chuckled and said that it was not like her, and asked the journalist to answer. Our heroine interrupted her husband and looked down in embarrassment, thanking him for what he did today. In a calm tone, the girl said that she had to go and turn to the door, trying to get around Lee Soo-hyuk. The man grabbed his wife by the wrist and quickly pulled her towards him. Kang Ji-woo's eyes widened in surprise, not understanding what happened. The brunette gently hugged the girl, causing her to tensely freeze in place. Lee Soo-hyuk gently asked his wife to just stand quietly until she calmed down. Kang Ji-woo sat alone on a bench in a deserted park and thought about something. She remembered the warm smile of her husband, who said that she was his favorite person. The girl covered her face with her hands in despair, thinking loudly that she had definitely gone crazy. She mentally screamed at herself and said that what she was doing at that moment was simply ridiculous. Kang Ji-woo looked at her trembling hands and realized that she was stepping on the same rake again. The girl didn't understand why Lee Soo-hyuk hugged her. Our heroine thought that he wanted to play the role of a wonderful husband. Her nerves snapped, and Kang Ji-woo screamed loudly throughout the park, announcing that Shim Ha-young was to blame for everything. Someone's voice was heard nearby, and the girl fell silent in fear, clenching her hands into fists. The stranger stopped next to the shocked Kang Ji-woo and noticed that she had a cheerful voice. Our heroine embarrassedly wiped the tears from her face and apologized, saying that she did not expect to see anyone here. The guy asked if he could sit on a nearby bench, and Kang Ji-woo answered in the affirmative. There was an awkward silence, interrupted only by the rustling of a paper bag of food. The girl looked up and looked at the stranger who was slowly eating a burger. She turned away, mentally scolding herself for staring at another person eating. Kang Ji-woo remembered that she didn't even have lunch. The girl froze and turned around when she heard the guy ask if she liked Shim Ha-young. The brown-haired man added with a smile that he thought she was cursing the Korean actress, so he asked such a question. Kang Ji-woo looked at the stranger suspiciously and mentally asked why he was asking her about this. With a friendly smile, the guy said that he was not planning anything and introduced himself as Ju-won. He said that it was his first time here and he didn't know what to eat, so he bought a hamburger. Ju-won added with a chuckle that Korean and American burgers taste different. The girl was still sitting tensely and noticed that the guy was very talkative. Kang Ji-woo got up from the bench and intended to leave. The brown-haired man said that there is nothing that she doesn't like about Shim Ha-young. He gave an example by saying that he doesn't like Kim Jae-wook either. The girl remained silent, continuing on her way, and Ju-won asked if she had lunch. Our heroine answered in the affirmative. The journalist froze in place when her stomach growled treacherously. Her face was covered with a shy blush. Kang Ji-woo sat back on the bench looking down. The guy asked if our heroine wanted to eat, but the girl replied that everything was fine and she was not hungry. The friendly stranger said with a smile that he didn't like fries, so he bought 2 hamburgers. Ju-won approached the journalist, holding out a package of food. The girl answered irritably that everything was fine. The guy guessed that Kang Ji-woo worked here and put a napkin on the bench, telling her to wipe away her tears before entering. Ju-won added that she would be uncomfortable if he stayed, so the guy left. The girl looked awkwardly at the stranger. The journalist watched her new acquaintance leave and said thoughtfully that a lot of unusual people had appeared these days. The girl thought it was very embarrassing when her stomach growled and looked at the hamburger lying next to her. She glanced at the food several times but eventually gave up and opened the package, shyly taking a bite of the burger. Lee Soo-hyuk and Yoo Mung-jung walked out of the conference room, and the bespectacled man said goodbye. The brunette entered his office and tiredly slammed the door, stopping in the middle of the room. The man exhaled noisily and loosened his tie. He remembered the moment he hugged Kang Ji-woo goodbye. Lee Soo-hyuk raised his hand to his face, sniffing the scent of her perfume that lingered on the fabric of his jacket. Obsessive thoughts reminded him that he should not give in, otherwise Kang Ji-woo would steal his heart again. The man pulled his hand away and took a deep breath, thinking that he needed to stop at the dry cleaners on the way home. The phone in his pocket vibrated and Lee Soo-hyuk took it out. Looking at the caller's name, Shim Ha-young, the brunette tensed, and after thinking a little, he rejected the call, squeezing the mobile phone in his hand. He was sitting at the computer when there was a knock on the door. The man shouted, "Come in," and the secretary entered the office. Clutching the documents in one hand, the girl announced that the renovations on the 4th floor had been completed. She added that the merger ceremony took place next week, and everyone is working to meet the deadline. Lee asked if he could move into the editorial office while accepting papers from the girl. The assistant said it was possible, but it would take time to completely clean up the office and she was trying to remove everything as quickly as possible. The phone on the table vibrated again. Lee Soo-hyuk leafed through the documents, not paying attention to the buzzing mobile phone nearby. The man asked if the receptionist had checked on the people invited to the event, and the girl answered in the affirmative, saying that she would contact the hotel. Confused, the assistant pointed to the ringing phone, to which Lee Soo-hyuk wordlessly rejected the call again. The secretary said that she would make a schedule for beauty salons and ask the director where Kang Ji-woo usually went. The man interrupted her, saying that he didn't know. He thought that although it was a merger ceremony, the main event was the opening of One TV. And not only investors would come, but also journalists. And everything had to be thought through. Lee Soo-hyuk asked the girl to go with him to a store at 10 in the morning, to which she surprisingly agreed. The secretary went about her business, and the director sighed tiredly, closing his eyes. The man's gaze fell on the frame with a wedding photo, where Kang Ji-woo smiled happily and held his hand. Lee Soo-hyuk frowned painfully and turned away, asking himself what the point of all this was now. The phone rang again and the man irritably turned it face down. Shim Ha-young sat in the dressing room nervously biting her thumbnail, and frowned indignantly when Lee Soo-hyuk once again rejected the challenge. The actress was sitting alone in an empty dressing room, looking at the phone screen when there was a knock on the door. The woman invited the visitor inside. The man said with a stern tone that Shim Ha-young should have watched who came in if she invited someone to come in. The main director approached the actress, and the woman asked what he was doing here. Yu Meng-jang replied that he was on his way to his place and decided to look here. The man added that he had a meeting with a representative of the media group. Noticing that the actress was clutching the phone too nervously, the director snatched it away, to the indignant exclamations of the woman. Yu Meng-jang turned on his cell phone and saw several calls to Lee Soo-hyuk. The man chuckled in disappointment, turning his gaze to Ha-young. He said he tried his best to save the actress as she fell to the bottom, but the woman was digging her own grave again. The director added that having a personal life is good, but Shim shouldn't forget that her personal life was the reason she was at the bottom. The actress justified herself by saying that she just wanted to ask something. Yu Meng-jung asked if she wanted to know if Kang Ji-woo had returned, and the woman looked down in shame. The chief director asked if she knew that the journalist was returning to work at the editorial office, under the direction of Lee Soo-hyuk. Shim Ha-young raised her head in shock. Yu Meng-jung still held her phone in his hand and added that the girl would even work with her again, to which the actress was surprised and asked if Lee Soo-hyuk knew about this. The head director said that of course the man knew, and asked what Shim Ha-young was going to do. Yu Meng-jung leaned over, placing the phone on her lap, and reminded her that it had been 7 years since she had gotten better the actress of Korea, and that the woman is used to standing on top. The director added that the days of obscurity were long, and asked if Shim Ha-young wanted to go back to a time when no one recognized her. The man wearily asked why the actress chose a married man. He said that they couldn't date openly anyway, and there was no place for her in Lee Soo-hyuk's life. Shim Ha-young's hands began to shake, and Yu Meng-jang warned that there was only one chance to forget the past, and she should watch her behavior. The director said that he would make an appointment with Kang Ji-woo and was about to leave. Turning around at the end, the man added that she should have tempered her pride. Yu Meng-jung said sternly that the actress had a lot to lose. She could become a star overnight, but she shouldn't forget that she could also disappoint everyone overnight. The man knew that Shim Ha-young understood all this better than him, since she had already gone through something similar. When the door closed behind the director, the actress leaned her fist against her chest, trying to catch her breath due to the growing panic. Kang Ji-woo was a girl with eyes full of love and a happy voice. Shim Ha-young always envied the sincerity with which the girl hugged the person she loved. The actress envied the people who wholeheartedly supported and rooted for this love. The woman thought sadly that when Kang Ji-woo had everything, she tried to destroy the actress with an article. Shim Ha-young asked herself why the girl needed to come back again. She turned on the phone and wrote a message asking to be met. Kang Ji-woo sat opposite the artist with a notepad and conducted an interview. The man said that his new album would be released in September, and he planned to focus on his music career. The musician said that he still hasn't given up on participating in the new drama. But Kang Ji-woo didn't listen to him. The girl looked through the table and was in prostration while the man tried to reach her. The artist shouted at the journalist, and Kang Ji-woo flinched and apologized. He asked what happened and said that if the girl wrote a strange article, he would only blame her. After apologizing again, Kang Ji-woo asked with a forced smile where they were at. She opened the notebook and sighed loudly, realizing that she had written down practically nothing. The girl kept thinking about the moment when Lee Soo-hyuk hugged her and couldn't do anything about it. Kang Ji-woo shuddered and focused again on the man's speech, asking him to answer her last question. When the journalist finished her drink and almost finished the interview, the artist asked if it was true that she had gotten back together with her husband. Kang Ji-woo asked in an annoyed voice why everyone already knew about this. The man didn't understand how she could like a guy who was having an affair behind her back. The journalist stood up from her chair, ignoring his questions. The musician continued to ask if there were people who believed that Shim Ha-young and Lee Soo-hyuk were not in a relationship. The man said that there are rumors that her husband is the actress's hidden sponsor. Our heroine quickly approached the artist and began to hit him painfully with her palms, shouting at him to watch his tongue. She walked away and warned that if the man said anything more unnecessary, then tomorrow his novel would be on the front page of the newspaper, to which the artist called her vile. She asked him to ignore all the bullshit and just be a good guy for his girlfriend. If he didn't want to announce his relationship publicly, then he had to be careful. The artist asked if the rumors were true, and if her husband's cheating could be a lie, causing Kang Ji-woo to freeze in place. The journalist turned around, and the man asked whether it was possible that she had convinced herself that nothing had happened, and therefore returned back to her husband. The girl mouthed Lee Soo-hyuk's words when he said that everything would be okay. But no one forgot and people continued to ask questions. Kang Ji-woo stopped in the middle of the parking lot and mentally asked herself how much longer she would have to listen to them. Something scared the girl and she turned around sharply, examining the surroundings. Kang Ji-woo wondered if she had become suspicious, or if she really wasn't imagining things. She exhaled in a relaxed manner and was about to leave when she heard a click again, this time clearly. The journalist turned around sharply and saw a camera flash behind one of the cars. The girl quickly ran towards the pursuer and tried to find out who this person was. Kang Ji-woo ran faster and shouted for the guy to stop, but he was still further and faster than her. Having stumbled awkwardly, the girl got tangled in her own legs and fell as she walked, dropping her phone. She sat on the cold asphalt and screamed at her pursuer for the last time, trying to find out who he was. Kang Ji-woo slammed her fist on the ground in frustration, but then she heard the sound of a fall and a quiet scream. A male voice rudely told the guy to stop running away and answered the girl, to which the journalist raised her head in surprise, looking at her savior. Lee Soo-hyuk sat on top of the pursuer, wringing his hands. The brunette asked in an irritated voice who the young man was. The man let go of the guy and asked who he was that he was holding the camera so fearlessly. The brunette turned over, and Lee Soo-hyuk reached for his mask, asking how he got here, because the security in the building was strict. The man pulled the cloth from the pursuer's face and asked if he was a reporter. The guy nodded, pursing his lips nervously. Lee Soo-hyuk took the camera and asked if he could enter someone else's company without permission, even if he was a journalist. The reporter pulled his cap lower and replied that he acted in the interests of the people. The brunette pulled out the memory card from the camera and said in a stern voice that they had the right to privacy. The man gave the camera to the surprised guy, and added that if he wanted to do an interview, it would be better to request it officially, because this was unacceptable. They both stood up and Lee Soo-hyuk told the reporter to leave and not come to that place again. The journalist timidly walked away from Kang Ji-woo and the brunette, and then broke into a run. The man turned to his wife and said that she was not mistaken in choosing a profession. because if she had taken the university exams in physical education, she would have failed. The girl lowered her head and asked him to speak without sarcasm, to which Lee Soo-hyuk chuckled. The brunette added that judging by the strength of her phone throw, Kang Ji-woo could become a pitcher, which made the girl frown and blush with displeasure. The journalist awkwardly touched her scratched hand, frowning in pain. Lee Soo-hyuk asked if the wife was afraid to challenge a man, no matter how strong she was. The girl awkwardly rose to her feet and replied that she was more scared that someone was following her, and therefore Kang Ji-woo had to catch the reporter. The journalist looked around and asked if the man had taken the memory card, because she needed to know how long the guy had been following her. She casually added that they needed to find out what the pursuer's name was, because then they could find out which newspaper he was from. Kang Ji-woo continued looking for her phone. She said that in any case, the man did everything right. The journalist asked if the guy could sue. She said she always wrote stories based on strong evidence, and hoped this reporter adhered to the same principles. She stopped next to the car and awkwardly scratched her cheek as she formulated her next words. The man was still standing there, and the girl embarrassedly asked if he could leave already, because she still had to get her cell phone from under the car. Lee Soo-hyuk squatted down and looked under the car. Kang Ji-woo frowned in confusion. The brunette extended his hand under the car, and the girl quietly asked what he was doing. Taking out the phone from under the car, the man handed it to Kang Ji-woo with a slight smile. She quickly took the cell phone from his hands, and while Lee Soo-hyuk stood up, she thanked him and said that she could do it herself. The girl blushed and, lowering her gaze, walked in the other direction, limping, which attracted the brunette's attention. The man extended his hand, intending to stop Kang Ji-woo by the shoulder, but pulled himself back in time, clenching his hand into a fist. The girl quietly added that she did not want to go to the ceremony, but Lee Soo-hyuk interrupted her by asking about the scandalous article. The man asked if she had been following him and Shim Hae-young the same way as this reporter, causing Kang Ji-woo to freeze mid-step. He questioned whether she published everything for the sake of sensation, no matter what. Lee Soo-hyuk turned away and reminded that the girl herself said a couple of minutes ago that she always wrote articles based on solid evidence. The man asked if she thought she had the right to blame this man for what she had done. Kang Ji-woo turned around and annoyedly said that Shim Hae-young's life was covered in darkness, and the girl persistently followed her to find out anything, so she took those photos. The journalist looked her husband in the eyes and confidently said that her answer was the same as a year ago, and she did not write this article. Kang Ji-woo added that she knew Lee Soo-hyuk didn't believe it, and in his eyes, she was a woman blinded by jealousy and success. The journalist sighed irritably and turned around, preparing to leave. She said it didn't matter because he wasn't the only one who didn't believe her, and that's why the girl was here now. Lee Soo-hyuk opened his mouth to try to ask a question, but stopped while formulating his words, causing Kang Ji-woo to freeze. The man turned to his wife and said that he really didn't understand anything if she was telling the truth. The journalist had exclusive news, and she simply threw it away. Kang Ji-woo quietly said that she was not only a reporter, but also a woman. But Lee Soo-hyuk didn't understand what she meant. The girl replied that she could not write an article that went against her beliefs, and she was not sure that her husband had another woman. Kang Ji-woo added that she still wanted to believe that he loved her, and even if she looked like a fool, the girl just wanted to believe it. Comparing the characteristics, habits, and sentences of this article with those that came out before, everything pointed to Kang Ji-woo. The man was sitting at the table with Jae-hyun, and he said that the acquisition of the editorial office was a blow to the image, to which Lee Soo-hyuk replied that his friend was too talkative. The man added that now the scandal has subsided, and relations with Shim Hae-young's company are improving. Jae-hyun said that his decision to bring Kang Ji-woo back to work was a bit rash, and the girl may have ended up taking advantage of him. Lee Soo-hyuk sat down at his desk and exhaled tiredly. The words were spinning in his head that creating a comprehensive TV channel program was not only his dream, but also that of the president. The man remembered his wife's words that she did not write the article, and the brunette thought that due to the fact that there was no evidence, she was in this company. Lee Soo-hyuk imagined Kang Ji-woo's firm and determined look at that moment, and thought that the people who lied did not look that way. Sighing, the brunette opened the drawer next to him, taking out the necessary thing, and at that moment there was a knock on the door. The secretary came into the office and asked if the director had called her, to which he nodded, inviting the girl to come closer. Lee Soo-hyuk handed the assistant a package and asked her to help him find out something quietly. All the missing items were brought into the office, and the boss told the employees to make sure that they completed everything, because it was soon the end of the working day. The man said that at 1 o'clock in the afternoon there was a merger ceremony held in the conference room, and asked if anyone was out and about. The journalist replied that Kim Do-yoon had an important interview in the morning, so he would come to the event right after. The boss wished everyone a good day and left. Kang Ji-woo overheard her colleagues talking about how their working conditions had improved compared to the current ones. The girl smiled and exhaled in a relaxed manner, thinking that finally her fate would be changed. Lee Soo-hyuk approached the journalist and said that he had made an appointment for them to go to a beauty salon for 10 o'clock. Kang Ji-woo asked in surprise if it was for the opening ceremony, and said that she would not go. The man said that if they went together as a couple, they could quash the rumors. The journalist replied that in any case there would have been no problem if she had not come. Brunei recalled that people continued to be interested in them, and cited the example of a reporter who was stalking them and said that it was worth taking action. The girl thought that it was better to give them the information themselves rather than having reporters chase her. And although she didn't like it, she believed that her husband was right. Kang Ji-woo looked at the wall clock and hoped that everything would go well. But she was still worried. A colleague asked why the girl was already leaving, and Ji-woo replied that she needed to meet with Lee Soo-hyuk, and then they had to go straight to the event. The girl looked at the editorial building and thought that although she had experienced many ups and downs here, this was also her first job, and Kang Ji-woo was glad that everything was fine. The journalist's phone rang and the girl saw her friend's name on the screen. She asked about the interview, but Do-young interrupted her by asking if Kang Ji-woo had fixed her phone. The girl said she fixed the screen yesterday, and the reporter added that the repairs were now expensive. Kim asked where she was now. Kang Ji-woo replied that she was standing outside the office, and the guy said that he was in the hospital because he had a severe stomachache after dinner the night before. The girl excitedly asked how he was feeling, and Kim Do-yoon replied that he felt better, but he had a request for Kang Ji-woo. The journalist shyly asked if she could cover him, and the girl froze, causing the taxi to pass by. The secretary told the man that he had to go already, otherwise he would be late. The assistant informed that preparations for the opening ceremony were completed, and places for the main investors had been organized. The girl added that there were problems with director Hwang Kyu-hyun, and he said that he would not be present due to a sudden business trip abroad. Lee Soo-hyuk looked at his watch and thought that he shouldn't be late if he went to the salon now. The man entered the room and asked the girl if his wife had come, to which she answered in the negative, and asked whether she should start without Kang Ji-woo or wait for the girl. Lee Soo-hyuk decided to start the procedures without his wife, and closed his eyes, taking off his jacket. After some time the girl did not come either, and the man nervously looked at his watch, noting that it was already 11 o'clock. The brunette asked if the secretary was sure that Kang Ji-woo left the editorial office, to which the assistant replied that his wife left the building around 9:30. Lee Soo-hyuk thought that it shouldn't have taken that long, even with the traffic, and said that they would wait a little longer because something might have happened. The girl nervously walked back and forth around the room, not understanding why the man still wasn't there. Kang Ji-woo muttered thoughtfully why he didn't show up, even though it was already past 12. The girl thought why the man was so unpunctual and scolded her friend, because he said that everything would end quickly. At that moment the phone in her hands went out, and Kang Ji-woo thought with annoyance that this was not the most opportune moment. The girl thought that there was nothing wrong with the fact that her husband would add another sin to her list, that Kang Ji-woo did not keep her promises. The door opened and the man walked inside, apologizing for the long delay, to which the journalist turned around in surprise. Lee Soo-hyuk greeted the next director and thanked him for coming despite his busy schedule. Hyung-min walked nearby and the man turned around in surprise, quickly approaching the journalist. Lee Soo-hyuk asked the girl to give him a minute, to which she was taken aback, turning to the director. They went to a deserted place, and the brunette began to ask Hyung-min where Kang Ji-woo was. The girl was surprised and asked why he asked her and not his wife herself. Lee Soo-hyuk got angry and shouted loudly that Kang Ji-woo still hadn't arrived. The director said that he would not have asked Hyung-min if he knew where his wife was. Soo-hyuk thought they were trying to make fun, but the reporter didn't understand what they were talking about. Hyung-min was sure that Kang Ji-woo had left in advance. The secretary quickly ran over and said that the boss was looking for Lee Soo-hyuk. The journalist added that the girl's cell phone was turned off. The brunette thought with fear that Kang Ji-woo might be being followed by a reporter again. The director quickly turned around, walking towards the exit, and ignored both girls. The excited man opened the door and went outside, but froze in surprise. The journalist was just getting out of the taxi with an embarrassed and guilty smile on her lips. Lee Soo-hyuk quickly approached the girl, shouting and asking what she was doing and whether she knew what time it was. Kang Ji-woo froze in surprise and quickly apologized. The brunette said irritably that the girl was very good at making people angry, to which the journalist began to make excuses. The man began to ask Kang Ji-woo where she had been, but the girl quickly stopped him, pointing out the curious faces. Lee Soo-hyuk added that it was rude not to write at least a message to the person who was waiting for her. The girl squeezed his palm and said that she called him, but the brunette's thoughts were eclipsed by the touch of her hands. The journalist told about everything that happened in the morning and admitted that her phone had run out of charge. She tried to justify herself, but the man silenced her. Lee Soo-hyuk pulled the girl towards him and hugged her tightly, causing her to fall silent in surprise, frozen in place. The girl sat on the bed and recalled the moment when her husband pulled her to him in a tight hug. Kang Ji-woo didn't understand what happened to the man and why he was so scared for her. A friend's voice came through the door and asked if the girl had finished changing clothes. Kang Ji-woo hesitated for a second and shouted for Young Min to come in. The brunette sat opposite the journalist, and in an angry voice asked her to explain what happened. The girl asked what happened between Kang Ji-woo and Lee Soo-hyuk, but the journalist pretended that she did not understand what her friend was talking about. Young Min said that 2 weeks ago, they couldn't even talk calmly, and Kang Ji-woo explained that he did this because there were a lot of people outside, just like he did in the company. The girl closed her eyes and thought with a smile that she had not told her friend everything that Lee Soo-hyuk had done that day. The brunette revealed that the man was worried and without people present when she went missing, and was about to leave the ceremony when he learned that something might have happened to Kang Ji-woo. The girl suggested that Lee Soo-hyuk was worried about the missing journalist. Kang Ji-woo felt her cheeks turn red and lowered her head guiltily. Young Min recognized this thoughtful look from her friend and broke the awkward silence. The brunette said that although the relationship between Lee Soo-hyuk and Shim Hae-young was obvious, her husband denied everything too much. She asked whether the man would behave this way if the article were true. Kang Ji-woo wondered if it was possible that there was no affair between the actress and her husband just because he denies it. Young Min said that there was always hope. The girl added that the way Lee Soo-hyuk worried about her was genuine. The journalist began to remember that very night, and the memories overwhelmed her, causing tears to roll into her eyes. Young Min pulled her friend towards her and quickly began to apologize for what she said. The brunette accused herself of saying such nonsense, knowing better than anyone how Kang Ji-woo's heart was trampled upon. The girl asked her friend not to pay attention to what she said. Young Min walked out the door and told the reporter to come out a little later. The friend left Kang Ji-woo alone in the room, alone with her thoughts. The girl thought that Lee Soo-hyuk was worried about her, and when he saw her, he felt relieved. Kang Ji-woo knew it was true. The man trembled a little as he hugged her. The journalist remembered the photographs she took on that terrible night, and could not find an explanation for them. There were many people sitting in the hall, and their hubbub could be heard everywhere. Most people discussed Lee Soo-hyuk and Kang Ji-woo. Some blamed the girl for what happened, and some defended her, and the journalist pretended that she had not heard any of this. Kang Ji-woo was sitting at the table, and the man asked if it was true that she had been reinstated. The journalist answered affirmatively in a tense voice. The father-in-law was sure that she and Lee Soo-hyuk had cleared up all the misunderstandings, and the girl asked if there were any, because they both knew the truth. The man looked at the hot coffee in his cup, and thoughtfully said that as people age, it becomes increasingly difficult for people to admit their mistakes and apologize. Kang Ji-woo asked if he thought what was written in the article was not true. The father-in-law replied that he did not believe in her, because his son could not do that. The man asked if the journalist claimed that the article was not written by her. Kang Ji-woo said it was true, and thought that Lee Soo-hyuk's father was only justifying him because he was his son. The father-in-law added that Soo-hyuk tried to prove that he did nothing wrong, and as a result, more and more people believed his words. The man asked what she had done during this time, and said that the girl should have been ashamed to be offended by Lee Soo-hyuk. Kang Ji-woo tried to answer, but no words came to mind. Lee Soo-hyuk's father continued to pressure the girl for treating her husband so badly when he did everything for her. The man said that he regretted that Lee Soo-hyuk married her. Kang Ji-woo stood up from her seat and said that he shouldn't worry, because the girl was going to get a divorce soon. The girl walked down the corridor and muttered indignantly under her breath about how this man could even tell her anything. She fell silent and froze in place when she heard a conversation coming from the restroom. The two girls were talking about whether Soo-hyuk could only be satisfied with Kang Ji-woo. One of the gossips asked why he didn't immediately marry the actress, and said that the journalist was just a simpleton compared to her. The employees left the restroom and continued discussing Lee Soo-hyuk and Shim Hae-young, when Kang Ji-woo quickly turned away to avoid being recognized. The girl stood in front of the mirror and asked herself if there were really only those in this hotel who loved to gossip. People nonchalantly discussed other people's problems, regardless of whether the subject was a man or a woman. Kang Ji-woo didn't understand if they really didn't have other things to do. The girl picked up her phone, breaking away from her thoughts to think about what she had to do. The journalist looked through correspondence with colleagues and discovered that their computers had not been moved, but they were planning to donate them to the organization. Kang Ji-woo thought that if they really didn't change the computers, then there might be clues there, and she didn't have much time to look at everything before it was destroyed. The girl was sure that if she had not come to the ceremony, everything would have gone smoothly, but she showed her face and heard so much rudeness. The journalist asked herself in despair how much longer she had to listen to such rumors. Kang Ji-woo slammed the sink loudly and thought angrily that if the real culprit had been found, nothing would have changed. Her thoughts were interrupted by the creak of the door. Someone went to the exit and the girl anxiously wondered who it could be. The journalist awkwardly touched her face with her palm and really didn't think that there could be anyone in the toilet. The girl heard a rustling sound and turned around. Seeing a familiar face, Kang Ji-woo was taken aback. The journalist tensed and asked in fear what the girl was doing here. Shim Hae-young calmly said that she didn't expect to see Kang Ji-woo here and planned to ask her the same question. There was still noise in the hall, and the man asked the interlocutor why he was so stubborn. Ju-won sarcastically asked if the coffee tasted so good because the hotel was nice. The man opposite him looked at him with irritation as the guy put the cup down on the table. Ju-won said that he made it clear that he did not want to attend this kind of event, but his escort said that not everything would always be the way he wanted. The guy asked why they were at the merger ceremony if the man was not the executive director. He said that he came as a representative, since he was the head of the company's press service. Ju-won asked why he was here. The man said irritably that he called the guy here for his own good. This place was a favorable environment to make new acquaintances. Ju-won said that he did not need such care. The journalist did not look pleased and explained that he had always hated such official events. The head of the press office casually shared that director Lee Soo-hyuk has been successful so far no matter what. Ju-won turned around in surprise. The man thought that the editor did not know about the scandal since he was not in Korea. But Ju-won said that he knew about the affair between the director and the actress. The head of the press office added that the person who exposed them was Soo-hyuk's wife. He quietly shared that even though they got back together, he thought it was a show, because who wanted to live with a cheater? Vaughn asked why the man was sure that the director was having an affair. He asked why the head of the press service was not ashamed to stoop to discussing gossip related to his idol, which offended the man. His escort was upset and asked him not to talk like that. At the same time, Lee Soo-hyuk began his speech by thanking everyone for coming to the ceremony. The director talked about how the merger made the company much bigger and stronger. Ju-won stopped listening to his speech and noted that the man's gaze was sharp and cold. It became clear to the editor that Lee Soo-hyuk was not an ordinary person. Ju-won got up from the table and the head of the press service asked where the guy was going to go. The journalist replied that he was going to the toilet because he could no longer stand being at this event. Kang Ji-woo stood in front of Shim Hae-young, who greeted her sarcastically. The actress folded her arms across her chest and looked defiantly at the journalist, who stood frozen in place in surprise. Shim Hae-young stretched her lips in a sarcastic grin and asked the girl if she really didn't remember her. Kang Ji-woo mirrored her gaze and sarcastically asked how she could forget Korea's best actress. The woman raised an eyebrow and said that she had heard that the journalist had returned to the editorial office and would work with the actress again. Kang Ji-woo asked with a grin if the actress was interested in the industry, or specifically in her and her comeback as a reporter. Shim Hae-young said in a sweet voice that she was wondering how Ji-woo could come back as a journalist and pretend nothing happened, even though she caused so much damage to the company. The actress added that the editorial office only talked about the girl as a journalist who rummaged through the trash. Ji-woo did not stand aside and said that she heard Hae-young being called a woman who pretended to be good, but in reality loved married men, and she was sure that she also heard that. The girl looked at the actress's face and thought with annoyance that even her dissatisfied face looked beautiful. The journalist said that she was leaving because she knew that if she stayed here, she would succumb to her feelings. Shim Ha-young asked why the girl remained so calm and if she understood what she had done. Kang Ji-woo froze in place. The actress asked if the journalist knew how many people had suffered because of her, to which Kang Ji-woo answered in the affirmative, and asked what was wrong with what she did. The girl asked why Shim Ha-young was so proud that she thought she was superior to a journalist. The actress looked intensely at Kang Ji-woo and didn't know what to answer. Our heroine lost her temper and started screaming at Ha-young. She said she let the world know that Korea's top actress was actually a terrible woman who was dating a married man. The actress was indignant, and Kang Ji-woo sarcastically asked what she didn't like about what was said. Shim Ha-young said that instead of exposing her husband's personal life like this, they could calmly discuss everything and resolve it without causing a scandal. The actress added that the girl didn't even check everything she did. And hearing this, Kang Ji-woo clenched her hands into a fist, holding back her anger. The reporter asked if Shim Ha-young really said that she did not check her suspicions. The girl asked if the actress really didn't remember how they met that night. Kang Ji-woo added that she wanted to forget it, but she couldn't, and she remembered that incident for the rest of her life. The girl said that she didn't understand why Shim Ha-young was saying that now, even though she herself knew all the details. Kang Ji-woo told the actress not to worry about articles about her, because the girl separated her work and personal life. The journalist rudely said that since she did not want to meet Ha-young even at work, the girl could not say that she was happy to meet the actress. Ju-won stood next to the restroom and wiped his hands with a napkin. After looking around the corridor, the guy muttered that if he had such a hotel, then his 3 generations would live comfortably. The reporter turned around when he heard a loud stomp and watched in surprise as the angry Shim Ha-young retreated. He didn't know what happened to the actress, but he thought she looked very angry. Ju-won returned to the table and asked the man if the speech was over. He replied in the affirmative that it had just ended. The head of the press service began to joke about his long absence, but the guy said that they should have talked about more ethical topics. The man said that new director Lee Soo-hyuk was really good-looking. He muttered that with so much money it was easy to be handsome, and wondered whether such a person would envy anyone. Ju-won recalled his affair and said that the man must have regretted it. The head of the press service was still depressed due to envy when the reporter noticed a familiar figure in the corridor. The guy asked who this girl was, which is why the man raised his head in surprise, not understanding who he was talking about. Ju-won stood up from the table and said that he had left something in the toilet and would be right back. The guy quickly ran after the girl and froze in place when he turned the corner. Kang Ji-woo squatted and cried quietly in the empty corridor, covering her face with her hands. Jo-won looked at Mr. Park in surprise as he asked when the editor came to Korea. The guy absent-mindedly replied that he had arrived recently, and his gaze fell on the hotel exit door. Kang Ji-woo followed Shim Ha-young out of the restroom and muttered angrily that she shouldn't have come here. The journalist stopped and sadly thought that she would never be left alone. The girl turned around in surprise when she heard her husband's voice, who asked what she was doing here. Lee Soo-hyuk came closer and wanted to say that he had been looking for her for a long time, but froze mid-sentence, noticing the tears on his wife's face. Kang Ji-woo said irritably that the event was almost over and there was no longer any reason for her to stay here any longer. The man told her to wait, but the wife began to quicken her pace, which is why Lee Soo-hyuk grabbed the girl's hand to stop her. The brunette asked her to leave with him. The man tried to stop his wife, but she broke free from his grip. A familiar voice was heard from behind, calling out to Lee Soo-hyuk. Shim Ha-young stopped in front of the director and said that she asked him to contact her. She asked in surprise whether the man had received her message. The brunette turned around and asked why his friend was present at this event. The actress asked the man to talk to her, which is why Kang Ji-woo tried to break free again, but her husband tightened his grip on her wrist. Lee Soo-hyuk told the woman that he was busy, and the reporter stood there trying to hold back her tears. The man told her to talk to director Yoo, but Shim Ha-young practically begged for a second. The actress said that it was very important and she only needed a minute. Kang Ji-woo looked with despair at her husband, who was making the decision. The girl said she was leaving and quickly pulled her hand out of the man's palm, ignoring his request to wait. The journalist quickly walked to the main door and mentally told herself that she couldn't cry now. The girl went outside and squatted in a deserted place, covering her face to muffle her sobs. Kang Ji-woo sobbed desperately and did not understand why her husband did this to her. With a tired sigh, Lee Soo-hyuk turned to his friend and asked what she wanted to tell. The man reminded her that she asked for a minute and asked the woman to speak quickly, turning to the direction where Kang Ji-woo had gone. Shim Ha-young asked if it was true that his wife was working in the newsroom again and was going to interview the actress. Lee Soo-hyuk irritably asked why she asked him again what was already known. The man said that if that was all she wanted to say, then he was leaving. Shim Ha-young nervously said that she had a hard time as people still reacted badly to the actress. Lee Soo-hyuk asked her to wait a little longer as he was doing his best. Ha-young said that if Ji-woo published the article again, he would make her life difficult. The man raised the topic of the scandalous article and tried to find the right words. The actress did not understand why the girl was still confident that she was right, and what her confidence was based on. Lee Soo-hyuk began to remember his wife's words that she only believed what she saw and heard. The man asked Shim Ha-young if she had met Kang Ji-woo face-to-face before the article came out. The actress tensed up and asked if the journalist said that she had met her. But Lee Soo-hyuk said that he asked her specifically. Shim Ha-young became nervous. She said that they all saw her for the first time at the wedding except Jae-hyun because the man didn't show Ji-woo before. The woman crossed her arms and asked if he was referring to the day they were together, and said that it was quite possible. Shim Ha-young nervously scratched the back of her head, and added that they had not communicated anyway. The friend said that she heard that they were getting back together and said that Kang Ji-woo was a bad match for him. The actress began to talk about how Lee Soo-hyuk should have broken up with such a girl for his own good, but the man quickly interrupted her, moralizing. The brunette said that he knew that Shim Ha-young was greatly affected by the news posted by Kang Ji-woo due to a misunderstanding, and he apologized many times about it. Lee Soo-hyuk added that no matter that the woman was his longtime friend, she should not forget that Ji-woo was his wife and the owner of the newsroom. Shim Ha-young asked if they were headed for divorce, but the brunette replied that legally they were still married. The actress did not understand what her friend wanted to say by this. Lee Soo-hyuk sternly told the woman not to look down on Kang Ji-woo or call her so casually. Shim Ha-young couldn't find anything to say, and the man, after congratulating her on her return, got ready to leave. The brunette went outside and thought with irritation where the conversation with his friend was important. Lee Soo-hyuk reasoned that he should not have let Kang Ji-woo go alone in such a state. The man desperately walked around the hotel and tried to find his wife, but his attempts were in vain. The director stopped near the road and thought that the journalist could have gone home by taxi. Kang Ji-woo was still crying near the far wall of the hotel, and when she heard footsteps behind her, she quickly turned around. Lee Soo-hyuk stopped next to his wife and looked in surprise at her tear-stained face. The girl quickly wiped the tears from her cheeks and stammered, asking why he was still here. Recently, a man has constantly lived with a feeling of resentment towards his wife for betrayal. Lee Soo-hyuk promised himself that the day they met again, he had to bury all his feelings for Kang Ji-woo. After all the misunderstandings were resolved and everything fell into place, the man planned to make his wife cry out of regret. But now, realizing all her pain, Lee Soo-hyuk did not want to see Kang Ji-woo cry. He asked himself if the girl cried the same way that night. The journalist stammered and tried to ask why the man came for her. In a gentle voice, Lee Soo-hyuk replied that he had previously said that they would return home together. The man gave his wife his hand to help her get up and invited the girl to go home. Ju-won watched this scene and did not understand what was happening. The guy was sure that Lee Woo-hyuk was in love with Shim Ha-young. The editor peeked around the corner to look at Kang Ji-woo. Ju-won was a little annoyed with the way they said goodbye last time. The guy squeezed a handkerchief in his hand and muttered thoughtfully that every time he saw the girl, she cried. They were sitting in the car, and Lee Soo-hyuk said that Secretary Kim would bring Kang Ji-woo's things in the evening. The brunette reached out to the girl, fastening his safety belt, causing the journalist to freeze in place. He reminded her that he asked to wait for him for just a minute, but she could not stand still and left. Kang Ji-woo said in a firm voice that there was no reason why she had to stay there. They were driving along the highway when Lee Soo-hyuk broke the awkward silence and asked the same question again. The man asked why the reporter thought that he and Shim Ha-young were in a relationship since she said that she only believed what she saw and heard. The girl lowered her head down and asked if he wanted to say that their relationship was her misunderstanding and an illusion. Kang Ji-woo was already sick of the repetition. The brunette admitted that he was really close with Shim Ha-young, as well as with Jae-hyun. Ha-young debuted when she was young and had no friends. She couldn't get used to the entertainment industry where everyone betrays each other, and so they both became everything to Ha-young. The actress had trouble forming relationships due to her personality, So whenever she was desperate, she would find solace in them. But Lee Soo-hyuk never thought of Shim Ha-young as a woman. His answer was the same as a year ago. The man and the actress were nothing more than friends, and that would never change. He added that he did not remember that night at all. Kang Ji-woo said that she didn't understand what he was saying because she saw and heard everything that day. The girl mockingly asked if there was a man who could refuse a woman like Shim Ha-young. Lee Soo-hyuk used himself as an example. The journalist got angry, but the brunette quickly interrupted her and told her that he constantly worked, studied, and managed the company. And he didn't even have time to meet girls. In a firm voice, the man said that when he got a position in the company, he was no longer interested in a relationship until Lee Soo-hyuk saw Kang Ji-woo. The car pulled up to their entrance and the man turned off the engine. He said there was never anyone but her. Lee Soo-hyuk admitted that he was in love with Kang Ji-woo, and the girl sadly lowered her eyes. They were sitting at a meeting in a restaurant, and the man asked if the director liked the dish, to which he responded positively. The interviewee said that Lee Soo-hyuk should have come to this place with his wife if there was time. The waiter brought coffee, and the man interrupted the director, interrupting unnecessary discussions, and asked to return to work. Yoo Mung-jung was planning his next program, which was a survival show. It has been very popular lately, and so he also wanted to try it on a TV channel. The man also thought about makeover shows, where ordinary people were transformed into stylish ones using cosmetics and clothes. Lee Soo-hyuk objected that his colleague spoke as if everything had already been decided. Yoo Mung-jung ignored the remark and said that Shim Hye-young should be the host. The CEO added with a forced smile that all these plans were only possible if Lee Soo-hyuk approved them. The brunette agreed wearily and took a sip of coffee, noting that the drink was bitter. Kang Ji-woo was sitting at her workplace and thinking about something of her own when she heard someone else's voice. The employee asked the interviewer if it was true that Shim Ha-young would be the MC of a survival show. The journalist turned around and listened to the conversation. A colleague asked who approved this project, but no one knew. The girl heard that director Lee Soo-hyuk was going to actively support the project and froze in shock. Kang Ji-woo remembered how he swore that he loved no one but her and thought that in fact the man was only thinking about helping Shim Ha-young. The journalist smiled sadly and realized how difficult it was to know what was true and what was a lie. The girl returned to Korea to fix everything, but now she didn't know if it would work. It was too hard for her alone. Kang Ji-woo thought that if she had an ally, then everything would be simpler. But the girl pushed away these thoughts, because she was ready. She would be left alone, and should not give in. The boss announced a new employee, but the girl practically did not listen to him, and was thinking about how, after the report, she could go into the old office and check the computer. Kang Ji-woo could have been caught trespassing, and the journalist needed to somehow get inside unnoticed. The new reporter stopped by her desk and said that he intends to work with Ji-woo as a partner. The girl looked at the guy and opened her eyes in surprise. The guy introduced himself with a smile as Nam Ju-won, and the journalist realized that he was an acquaintance of hers. Kang Ji-woo froze in place and all thoughts flew out of her head. The guy continued to look at the girl with a smile. Realization flashed in her eyes, and the journalist shouted, "Hamburger!" to the entire office, causing Ju-won to laugh. They were standing in the kitchen, and Kang Ji-woo asked why the reporter chose her. Because there were many people in the company who were ready to be partners. The girl awkwardly said that he shouldn't have worked with a third-rate journalist like her. But Nam Ju justified himself by saying that he had no choice, because it was the manager's order. The guy said with a smile that working in the entertainment industry was new to him. He thought that Ji-woo was a shy person. Jo-won added that he had lived in the United States for about 5 years, and asked how long the girl had been working as a journalist. Kang Ji-woo replied that she worked in the editorial office for 4 years, but if you take into account the break, then more than 5 years. The editor was surprised and asked if this break was due to maternity leave. The journalist became angry and shouted that she did not have children. She thought Ju-won was bullying her. The editor apologized and said that he heard that she was married, so he thought maybe Kang had a child too. She asked if he was the kind of person who didn't feel guilty even if he apologized. Kang Ji-woo turned around irritably, preparing to leave. Namju was surprised and said that he was not trying to offend her. The guy followed the journalist and asked the stupidest questions while she ignored him. After asking about the hamburger and the handkerchief, Ju-won asked if the girl still hated Shim Ha-young. Kang Ji-woo stopped and turned to face her new partner, saying that they were not close enough to discuss personal matters. The brown-haired man froze guiltily in place. and the journalist asked him not to be interested in her personal life in the future. Nam Ju-won stretched his lips into an exemplary smile and said that Kang Ji-woo was a strong person. The guy apologized and said that he would try not to interfere in her personal life, and the journalist was embarrassed because of his excessive politeness. Ju-won asked the girl not to talk so badly about herself and admitted that he had read all her articles. Kang Ji-woo's eyes widened in surprise and her mouth opened, asking the guy if he was telling the truth. The reporter said he liked the peculiarity of her articles. To attract attention, the girl placed the conclusions at the beginning. She admitted that she also liked it, unlike her bosses. Kang Ji-woo complained about the boss in the office, and Namju supported her, saying that the style of presenting news was changing a lot these days, and he thought that the girl had a good style. The journalist replied that she thought the same thing, but these were just thoughts, and the reality was completely different, and therefore she was considered a third-rate editor. Ju-won whispered in Kang Ji-woo's ear that the manager's article had a lot of spelling errors, but asked her not to tell anyone. The girl asked if it was true and laughed loudly, embarrassedly covering her mouth with her hand. The journalist quietly said that she knew so, and did not understand how the manager could call someone an amateur. Namju thought that when he saw the girl's smile, his soul felt warm. The guy turned around in fear when he heard rustling noises while Kang Ji-woo laughed quietly. The journalist emerged from her thoughts and said that she had to go to an interview and could be late. The girl added with a smile that they thought the same about the manager, which was good, because teammates had to help each other. Ju-won sank when he heard what she called them. Kang Ji-woo turned around to leave and asked Ju-won to look at the atmosphere in the office today. The editor asked if the girl could take him with her tomorrow, and the journalist playfully replied that she would think about it. Nam Jo-won chuckled quietly as he watched his partner's retreating figure, and guessed who was watching them earlier. Lee Soo-hyuk sat in his office, drinking his hot coffee with irritation. The man remembered how his wife laughed loudly in the company of a guy he didn't know. The brunette remembered watching them in the hall, and how the stranger saw him. A moment came to Lee Soo-hyuk's mind when the guy grinned at him and turned back to Kang Ji-woo, continuing the conversation as if nothing had happened. The man snapped out of his thoughts when there was a knock on the door, and the secretary asked permission to enter. The girl handed the director a folder, and said that she examined his wife's computer in the editorial office. As Lee Soo-hyuk asked, the brunette picked up the documents and thought that there was only one place that he could not get into when he was conducting a personal investigation, and that was the editorial office. Secretary Kim added that she tried to get into the news download program and looked for access to data from the owner's account, and it was associated with 3 devices. One was Kang Ji-woo's computer, and the other 2 were newspaper laptops. Lee Soo-hyuk sighed heavily, realizing that this was a waste of time again. The girl informed that there was one entry with a different address. It was dawn when the article was uploaded. Lee Soo-hyuk asked for information about it, but the secretary said that it was a computer that was not registered with the newspaper publishing house. The man sighed in disappointment and realized that there was no way to find out the address right now. This situation could have 2 meanings. Either someone tried to log in as Kang Ji-woo, stealing her information, or the girl logged into the program on her personal computer. However, only the journalist was visible on the building's CCTV footage, and if the odds were the same, it was still not in Kang Ji-woo's favor. Night fell, and the girl quickly looked out of the toilet, looking around in search of strangers. The girl quietly told herself that she shouldn't have hidden in the restroom, and hoped that her clothes wouldn't smell. Kang Ji-woo was inspired, and after all the humiliation she had to endure, she had to find even the smallest clues. The girl began to pull the door handle, but it was closed, and panic began to arise in her soul. The journalist thought with despair that it was not for nothing that everything had gone well before, and she needed to learn how to open the door without a key. Kang Ji-woo heard footsteps on the stairs and stepped aside excitedly, realizing that it was security. The thought came to the girl's mind that if she got caught, then the investigation could be forgotten, and all that could shine for Kang Ji-woo was prison. Someone grabbed the journalist from behind, and before the girl had time to scream, a hand was covered over her mouth. The guard walked up the stairs and lit his way with a flashlight. The man was checking the building for strangers. He froze in place and quickly directed a beam of light towards the empty corridor, hearing something. After listening for a couple of seconds, the guard moved on while Kang Ji-woo tried not to breathe. When the man walked around the corner, Lee Soo-hyuk removed his hand from the girl's face and she turned around in fear. The brunette quietly asked what the journalist was doing here, and she asked him to repeat it because she had heard nothing. The man sighed and leaned closer to Kang Ji-woo, causing her to flinch. Lee Soo-hyuk approached the girl's ear and again asked how she got into the editorial building. The brunette asked if she knew it was trespassing, and Kang Ji-woo became nervous, saying that she forgot something in the office. The girl fell silent mid-sentence and turned to her husband, asking what he was doing here and put forward a guess. But the man interrupted her. Lee Soo-hyuk said that now the journalist could not enter the office without a key, and Kang Ji-woo awkwardly replied that this was true. The girl lowered her head, thinking that she had screwed up. Lee Soo-hyuk asked if she came to the office to find something she forgot, or if there was some other reason. Kang Ji-woo thought that there was no point in hiding, and replied that she was here to investigate because she needed to find out something. Lee Soo-hyuk looked at her husband in surprise, and the girl added that this was very important to her. The journalist guiltily said that she didn't ask for help, and asked the man to just pretend he didn't see her, but Lee Soo-hyuk offered to help himself. The girl fell silent and looked at her husband in surprise. The brunette asked Ji-woo to tell her what she was looking for. The journalist said that she needed to get to her computer, and when asked how long it would take her, she answered that it would be at least 3 hours. Lee Soo-hyuk asked the girl to wait in their hideout for a minute, and extracted a promise that Kang Ji-woo would tell the man what she was trying to find if he helped her. The journalist agreed to his terms, and the brunette came around the corner, following towards the door. The girl looked after her husband and quietly asked herself if he was trying to pretend to be a tough guy. Kang Ji-woo realized what she said and embarrassedly covered her mouth with her hand, scolding herself for calling the man cool. The journalist squatted down, covering her face with her hands, and mentally told herself that she had gone crazy. After a couple of minutes, Lee Soo-hyuk did not show up, and the girl thought that something might have happened. Suddenly the lights came on throughout the entire room, and Kang Ji-woo squinted her eyes in confusion. The man appeared around the corner and looked at the journalist with a smug smile. She awkwardly asked what happened, and Lee Soo-hyuk jingled his keys, reminding the girl of his promise. The brunette squeezed the keys in his palm and asked his wife to tell him what she was looking for in the office. The man was looking out the window when he heard Kang Ji-woo's question. The girl asked why the one to whom all doors were open was hiding. The journalist was quickly typing something on the computer, and asked why Lee Soo-hyuk even came to the editorial office at night. The man remembered Kim's words that Kang Ji-woo had been reacting since she entered the building. The girl was intensely looking for something and asked where Lee Soo-hyuk got the key to the office. The man did not answer, and the journalist was outraged because of this. The brunette replied that he talked to the guard and she could do whatever she wanted for the next 4 hours. Time passed quickly, and breaking the silence, Lee Soo-hyuk asked if the girl really thought that she could find evidence in the computer. Kang Ji-woo said she was hopeful but wasn't sure. She added that the man could not just sit and do nothing. The girl asked the brunette to come up and look at the documents. The director stood up from his chair and approached his wife. The journalist showed the man the access log, and he noted that he had seen the same one this afternoon. The girl looked thoughtfully at the document and noted that there was her computer and someone else's. Turning the magazine towards Lee Soo-hyuk, she sternly said that this needed to be sorted out. The man said nothing and simply looked at his wife in surprise. Kang Ji-woo annoyedly asked if he even listened to her. The brunette replied that he heard everything, but the girl didn't believe him, and asked why Soo-hyuk didn't say from the very beginning that he didn't want to listen. The man repeated her theory, and Kang Ji-woo added that finding the location of that computer was difficult because the device did not belong to the company. The girl added that if she found him, she could get rid of her false accusation completely. And Lee Soo-hyuk said that he understood what she meant, because he couldn't admit that he already knew everything. Kang Ji-woo hesitantly asked if the man really believed her, which made the brunette flinch. The journalist added that she did not have access to a computer that day, and the girl also did not use her laptop. Lee Soo-hyuk turned to his wife and softly replied that he believed her, which is why the journalist's eyes lit up with hope. In the afternoon, the bosses thanked the girl for her efforts at work and politely said goodbye. Kang Ji-woo had no idea how she worked today due to constant thinking and lack of sleep. The journalist recalled a conversation with Lee Soo-hyuk when he said that he believed her. Then the girl asked why, because until that day the man had never believed her. The brunette replied that at the moment they were on the same side, and with his help, she could try to collect as much evidence of her innocence as possible. Kang Ji-woo asked what if she couldn't prove it. The girl asked if his faith would collapse after this, and Lee Soo-hyuk asked her to let him decide for himself. The journalist touched her forehead with her hand and thought that she urgently needed a drink. The phone in her pocket rang and Kang Ji-woo jumped in surprise as she took it out. The girl looked at the cell phone screen and was taken aback when she saw who was calling her. Kang Ji-woo sat on the floor of her father's house, looking guiltily at the floor as he scolded her for cheating. The man mentioned the opening ceremony, and the girl awkwardly justified herself by saying that she wanted to contact him, but was afraid that her father would worry. The journalist tried to appease the man with his favorite beer, but he still looked sternly at his daughter. The girl said that she was completely confused because what she believed in seemed false. Kang Ji-woo tearfully admitted that she thought Lee Soo-hyuk betrayed her. The girl told her father about his words and added that she couldn't believe it, but her husband's beliefs were stuck in her heart. Kang Ji-woo was afraid that if she believed, she would be hurt again. The journalist asked if the father was in the same turmoil when the mother returned and asked to forgive her. The girl whispered that she still hated her mother and did not know how her father forgave this woman. Kang Ji-woo thought everything was going to work out for her when she returned to Korea. But in reality, she was desperate. Lee Soo-hyuk entered the elevator and pressed the button to the 21st floor, rising up in silence. When the man came out, his eyes caught the red-haired guy he had seen before. The reporter asked if the director remembered him, and the brunette said the name Kim Do-young. The guy asked if director Kang Ji-woo was looking for him, and he nodded in the affirmative. Do-young said that she came to the office recently, but then hurriedly left. The employee reassured him by saying that the girl left her bag and asked if Ji-woo called him. Lee Soo-hyuk replied that his wife did not answer the phone. The director asked if something happened to the girl in the morning, but the red-haired guy said that everything was as usual. The brunette thought about how Kang Ji-woo didn't come home last night. Kim Do-yoon worriedly warned the man that he would tell the girl to call Lee Soo-hyuk when he arrived. The brunette was going down in the elevator again, and thought that there was no reason to worry, but he wondered where his wife had gone in the morning. The man came out on the right floor, and his gaze fell on the figure of Kang Ji-woo, who was standing near the door to his office. The girl thought about her father's words when he said that the man was not disappointed by the reality that was in front of his eyes. When the man realized that no matter how hard he tried, there might not be the changed future he had hoped for, then he fell into despair. Kang Ji-woo recalled her father's words that she had to think and act confidently if she tried to change reality. Lee Soo-hyuk said that he had been looking for the girl since the morning, and asked if something had happened. Kang Ji-woo replied that if he had time today she wanted to talk about it at home. The man thought about something for a couple of seconds, and then said that he would leave work early, which is why the journalist breathed a sigh of relief. Lee Soo-hyuk asked where the girl was yesterday, and Kang Ji-woo replied that she went to her father because he found out that her daughter returned to Korea. The brunette asked how they talked, and the girl replied that the man was angry but understood everything. Kang Ji-woo realized that she had not had such conversations for a long time, and embarrassedly said goodbye, saying that they would see each other in the evening. The girl was about to leave but stopped when her husband asked her to wait. Lee Soo-hyuk came closer and asked his wife to contact him in advance if something like yesterday happened. The man took the phone and texted her, saying it was his number. The brunette added that he was on her side, and the girl should have called him if anything happened. Lee Soo-hyuk didn't care whether she believed it or not, but the man was worried about his wife, and so she had to call him no matter what happened. The girl looked at the message written to her husband that she would be home late because of an unexpected trip to a cafe with colleagues. Kim Do-yoon sat down with Kang Ji-woo and said that recently the company was falling apart and the employees' salaries were delayed. But now luck was on their side. The guy put meat in his mouth and added that, as expected, when you join a good company, you eat delicious food at a corporate party. The girl asked him to chew and then speak. Do-young admitted that he didn't eat such food often, and Kang Ji-woo asked how much he earned and why he didn't have money to buy beef sometimes. The journalist said that his family had a lot of debts, and when he put everything aside to pay it off, there was not enough for anything else. But he was glad that there was little left. The girl offered him her meat, saying that she wanted to drink. Do-young was delighted and happily accepted her offer. The manager approached Kang Ji-woo and happily said that he wanted to have a drink with her, because thanks to the journalist they stayed at work. The girl realized that she was in trouble. The man poured alcohol into her glass, and Ju-won watched all this anxiously. Lee Soo-hyuk sat in his office and looked through documents, sometimes glancing at his phone, waiting for a message or call from his wife. The man sighed and thought about how the company cafeteria was notorious for its terrible food. The brunette knew that before the wedding the girl never returned home sober after such dinners. And he remembered that the new reporter would also be there. Lee Soo-hyuk wondered why an international journalist worked for this company. Did he want it himself, or on the recommendation of his editors? Reporter Nam Joo-won applied to return about 2 months ago, and the international department requested a replacement 3 weeks ago. Something about this guy bothered the director, and he decided that he should have kept an eye on him while he was around Ji-woo. A call from a journalist appeared on the phone screen and the man tensed, quickly answering. Lee Soo-hyuk worriedly asked where the girl was. Kang Ji-woo squatted and mumbled the man's name.